Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Endwalker Countdown podcast. I'm your host, Noah. This is my co-host, Lee. And this week we are going to be talking about Heavensward. Oh, God. Okay, so I'm gonna tell you guys, preemptively start this podcast because I know a lot of you who are listening are not regular attendees of my... I guess I don't stream anymore, but back when I did stream, right? So I know, those of you who attended my streams, you know, I really don't like Heavensward. And I've talked about it in other casts, but I will try to keep the full brunt of my loathing. That's so dramatic. I'm gonna try to, even if I'm gonna be mean in this cast, it's mostly so that I can contain the toxicity to one episode, and not let it bleed over into other episodes. Like, say we do an episode about Heidelin's Chosen. I don't want to, go on a long rant, when we get to Ezale, for example. So, even if I'm going to be harsh in this cast, I take it with a grain of salt because I enjoy it.
It'll also get
Heavensward.
balanced out because I enjoyed Heavensward. I thought it was, enjoyable.
Yeah, that's true. But if you are somebody who, and I'm not joking when I say this, and I'm not, throwing shade, curate your own media experience. If you are legitimately somebody whose feelings get hurt when somebody speaks harshly about the media you like, then I would recommend clicking off the video. I'm not gonna say I'm being unfair, because when people are like, oh, someone's being, unfair, I played through Heavensward twice. The second time I played very meticulously, and I was going into it trying to enjoy Heavensward. I was like, you know what, maybe I'm misremembering Heavensward. Maybe it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. Maybe I only thought it was bad because I was trying to get from set piece to set piece, which is how I felt going into ARR. That's actually how I felt going into ARR and Heavensward both, where I was I went into both of them trying to look for things to enjoy. And then playing Stormblood, it was the reverse, where I'm like, maybe I'm remembering Stormblood, better than it actually was. And then I tried to look for things to criticize in Stormblood. And what I came out of it was, I liked ARR more on the second playthrough, I liked Heavensward less, and I liked Stormblood about the same, maybe a little bit more. Anyways, Lee, you started playing, right before Heavensward
around that
came
time,
out, right?
So Heavensward was around when I actually started playing quite seriously, I guess, and I missed a few of the things that came out on content in ARR, so 24-mans. So stuff like Void Ark was my first 24-man, which is, I guess, pretty relevant because 3.1 was considered at the time to be probably the worst patch ever. I think it still is considered to be the worst patch in Final Fantasy XIV history. And that was because, this is something that people don't really remember that much anymore. But,
what was 3.1? There was a dungeon, right?
Back in Heavensward, we had 3 dungeons per patch. Back then,
What?
Dungeons were more kind of part of the core loop of gameplay, and now they're not. They're kind of phasing out other content like Baja, like Eureka, for what dungeons used to take the place of. And I think that's actually good, because dungeons are pretty rote, you know what I mean? In the end, it's kind of just different set pieces, different mechanics, but the formula is always the same. And I think they're kind of they have consciously,
I meant, MSQ dungeons.
They have consciously made the decision to divert resources away from dungeon designing and design content without that formula, so that's more interesting. And I think that's actually, pretty interesting. And the thing is, there are still dungeons, so if you want to do them, you can still do them. As a long-time player, I don't find that much of an issue. But anyway, there were 3 dungeons.
Oh,
there was Lord of Verminion. Everyone hated that. Considered dead on arrival. Fuck
you.
There was
I love Lord of
Original
Verminion.
Diadem, also considered dead on arrival. I can tell you that in all the history of Final Fantasy, I can only think of one feature that has ever been one theme park ride, so to speak, that has ever been completely cut from the game, and that was Original Diadem. Because when they put in theme park rides, they don't usually take them out. You know what I mean? They're always there. So trials, dungeons, you can always go back and do them, even if you can't experience them as they were on launch. You can always go back and do them. Diadem, the mechanics of Diadem have changed completely, such that you can no longer play the original Diadem, ever, at all. There was also a period of time in which, Diadem was just straight up not accessible in any form, before it came back for Ishgard Reconstruction. I thought this was hilarious because the the High House like NPCs standing by the airship landing in Ishgard were just like, yeah, we don't have any jobs anymore. They were
That's
just
really funny.
Yeah, they were just standing
jobless.
there because they was like, yeah, we're not allowed to bring you to the diadem anymore.
I didn't even like know there was an
original diadem. It was bad.
I didn't even know.
I can tell you this because I played it. The island
so
which
funny.
you like fish and stuff from now in Diadem, like for Ishgard Restoration, that used to be called Dinosaur Island by the player base because the only things that would spawn there were massive like fuck off dinosaurs that would wreck your shit. And it was kind of like a less sophisticated, less polished version of Eureka, because the only thing that you could do in this zone was basically like spawn big monsters and then try not to get absolutely stomped by them, and the rewards were also pretty lackluster. The mechanics were lackluster. I feel bad describing a gameplay mode like this, but the thing is, I can say this because they came back, iterated on it so well, and now it's actually like a really good feature. I think that's a successful measure of product development, which I can say because my job involves stuff like this.
I love it when Lee says this because like while I'm not currently working in game development, I have worked in game development. Like I have with me, I work on, God, I sometimes work on gacha games.
Oh God, what a mission!
Not like Grand Blue, not Love Live, nothing big name like that. You guys will never fucking figure it out. But I do work on gacha games. There's 3 different companies that I occasionally do freelance work for, and so I've been on the game dev scene. I've helped with like a few indie things, but I mostly make art assets. I don't do anything else. And Lee will like be like, oh well, I respect this and that and this and that, right? Because you know, I guess we've done the same thing before. Basically, like we've both worked in this in this field.
My field is not expressly game design, but it is a field in which I've had to iterate a lot. I've had to throw away beloved projects. I've had to come back over and over again to projects that we really want to succeed but did not, you know. And also, it's public facing. It's public facing, so it's up to, you know, we have to gauge like what people like in the product. So when I saw what they did with Diadem, they brought it back. I was like, I find this really respectable actually, because what companies tend to do when they're faced with a situation like this is to completely throw away the feature and like it's gone forever. And the thing is, Final Fantasy never does this. Well, even though they threw away Diadem, it came back eventually.
What I mean is, like, we really like just jumped into it with this
No, I'm just
good, which is good.
I like how we were gonna be like
it's good.
Media analyzing the story, and now I'm here doing like a product design
and now you're
analysis.
talking mechanics, yeah. But I like how like she's like, oh, well, I like really respect this and this and that. I'm like, because I remember when, and I'm sorry to go back to Wurlit, but Wurlit is the best example because it's like the one thing that she and I agree on is just bad. But when it came out, like she was kind of giving it the benefit of the doubt, and I was like not giving it the benefit of the doubt. How do I put this? She was not being as harsh as I was.
I'm not really harsh on media until it's so unforgivably bad that it like makes me angry. Do you know what I mean? Like for the most part,
it's okay. You can say the Nostalgia Critics movie. You can say
anyway.
It's okay.
For the most part, I'm like okay. You know what I mean? I'm okay with like media, even if I don't 100% enjoy it. Like I was enjoying Wurlit. I was enjoying it in like the Emerald Weapon.
Oh, I was enjoying it too. That's why it makes me so mad, because Ruby Weapon had so much fucking potential.
I call this the Beastars effect. Anyway.
Oh yeah, you like really don't like Beastars.
For this reason. I read all of it.
I also read all of it, and I also don't like Beastars, but I think she dislikes it more than I do, because I think it's forgivable, because it has a lot of... Oh yeah, we are recording this on 8/8. Happy Vor Day.
Very on topic.
Perfect
to talk
time
about Beastars.
Yes, very on topic. That's why I forgive Beastars, because it gave me gay
This is funny, because I hated Beastars because I thought it was going to be gay, and it wasn't.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be gay, and
it wasn't. And the thing is,
really
then like the murder mystery from the beginning also failed to deliver, and ended up being this like extremely strange tournament arc that had like increasingly...
Hold on, one second,
okay.
one second. I'm so sorry. I'm going to make you restart this rant.
Okay, well now I got to talk about fucking Beastars again.
Okay, talk about Beastars. Sorry, I had to cut there, okay. and then.
No, you have to keep the part in where you yelled at your brother. But anyway. Yes.
No. The audience is going to clamor for the thing.
Okay, well, I'm gonna tell you, Noah turned around and yelled at his brother, and it was really funny. Anyway, so
it wasn't angry yelling. It was like he was at the top of the stairs and he like called out to me, like he wouldn't be able to hear me.
Yeah, but anyway. So I didn't like Beastars because there was like it wasn't just the fact that it was less gay than I thought, because that's not Beastars' fault. I guess I don't think that just from the marketing and from the actual comic itself, I would have assumed that it was going to be gay. But from
like it wasn't like a queer
from what
bait
people were saying on Twitter, I was like, oh, this is gay. It wasn't gay.
I was queer baited by Twitter. That's your own fault for listening to Twitter.
Yeah.
But
it's like it wasn't just that though. It was also like the murder mystery stopped panning out, and then it became like this weird tournament arc, and it just wasn't funny anymore, and like it wasn't interesting. It wasn't really what I came to Beastars for, like the interesting like interpersonal writing, which honestly that kind of fizzled out pretty fast near the end anyway. Not even near the end, like in the middle.
Well, for me, like the thing that I don't like about Beastars is any sort of like any sort of like racism based in essentialism shit. I don't agree. Like that. And you don't have to take Beastars as an allegory for racism. I don't actually think most of the analysis surrounding it does. A lot more of the analysis surrounding it takes it as an analysis of gender, which I think is pretty interesting, because obviously, like, you know, predators and prey can be both male and female, but like how analysis tends to go is the prey races.
I remember, like, I thought it was like kind of like half a metaphor. I won't say a whole metaphor, but half a metaphor for like same-sex like marriage and stuff like that, because there is this entire thing. There's an entire thing about like, but you know, it wasn't like, I don't think it was exactly that, because it kind of tried to be a few different things that didn't match up one-to-one with anything else, which is fair. But the thing is that like we're going to read it as something anyway, and what I read it as was like half a metaphor for same-sex marriage, being like the taboo, the people trying to accommodate each other, stuff like that, but not knowing how. Like the thing, and then it was like, and also they eat each other.
Ultimately, it's supposed to be a metaphor for like it's not trying to be one specific. I don't think the author was going into, and like obviously I can't apply intentionality.
We're analyzing Beastars on a Heavensward podcast.
Well, Beastars makes me less angry.
It's actually funny. It makes me more angry. So this, I guess, this contextualizes
so it'll
like personal judgments of media.
Yeah, like if we talk about something other, it's, you know, freeform podcast. But like the thing is that whatever it was trying to be a metaphor for, whatever sort of transgression it was, it's ruined by the fact that the characters are actually incredibly conformist and they're incredibly like conventional. Like the main three, we have Louise.
What about the bunny girl? She's like insane. Also, her decisions make me feel crazy.
They end up in a fucking heterosexual happy relationship, and she goes to college. Like she's pretty conformist.
She's explicitly non-conformist based on like the stereotypes of her species, basically, which I found interesting. I found her an interesting character, an interesting and enraging character, because she does the stupidest things imaginable.
Well, okay, like, in the context of the series, she's non-conformist. But, and I would say, like, even, and this is important to, like, because we're always going to talk about how a Japanese audience's perspective is important, because I think Haru appeals a lot more to the Japanese woman than she does to the Western woman. Like, based on, not Western woman, like American woman, based on like Japanese cultural values versus American cultural values, right? Where, like, you know, Haru is expected to be demure and subservient.
It's not so much demure and subservient, but like not promiscuous, I guess.
It's not just promiscuity. It's like not demure.
I'm not really sure what the word is either.
She's not supposed to be, I'm ESL. She's not supposed to be out of line, you know? Like, she's supposed to stay one way.
That's the societal image of being a woman, which is, funnily enough, not discussed in Beastars, but is implicitly known by the audience, since this is a society that, you know, is supposed to mirror our own.
Yeah, because Haru is like the capital W woman in the series. Like I know there's also Juno, but like
makes me also feel insane. Oh,
she makes me feel crazy. That said, Juno and Louis was unfortunately a heterosexual couple that I thought was kind of cute. Too bad they didn't get together.
I remember this. Oh, right. Louis, like the ending was like. The thing is, though, like. A lot of people clamor about bad endings, and a lot of times I think that they're wrong for doing so, because an ending that doesn't make you feel, like, happy as a reader is not necessarily a bad ending. You get what I mean?
Yeah, it's not a bad ending.
And, like, that's how I felt about, like Louis not getting together with Juno. But also at that point I was completely, like... Completely... I was also checked out. I was just reading it because I was I want to see how it ends.
It's like there was like the melon dude, and it was like, yeah, I'm fucked up because my mom was like a predator and my dad was like I'm gonna put a timestamp for
so you can see so people can skip us talking about Beastars instead of Heavensward.
Well also we like talk about like we're spoiling the whole fucking series for like anyone who's anime only. But like, you know, there's Melon and he's like, yeah, I'm fucked up because my mom was like a cheetah and my dad was like a deer, and it's like. So Haru, like I don't know if this is like pro or anti eugenics.
It was weird.
Haru,
like, there were all these like mixed
can...
messages. I was like, is this supposed to say anything? And I think like my conclusion is that it's not supposed to say anything.
Yeah, like media
it doesn't need to say anything.
Need
but
to
it just
say
feels
anything.
Strange.
But the problem with Beastars is sometimes
it
does try
says
to
things
say
and then says another thing,
and then
it's
it
like
contradicts
I don't know
itself.
what the aim was here.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
It doesn't really like. There are some things I like about it, like
the chicken episode.
The chicken, I love her thing. Her whole thing is like the body of the woman is commodified under capitalism, and we're encouraged to take pride in that. I thought that was the message I took from that. That fucking slapped. That was really cool. And I try to do a leftist analysis of Beastars, and it's just impossible because it's all over the place.
Beastars is not leftist enough to make a leftist analysis of it. I'm sorry.
Yes. Like Legoshi, Haru was good in like season 1, and then she started to suck. Legoshi just sucked the whole time, pretty much. And Louis was I'm sorry, I liked Louis. Louis was great. If the story was about him, I don't know if I'd like it more or less, because he might be one of those characters who's good because he's not on screen all the time. But I thought Louis' story was the most compelling story, because Louis' story was like, I'm trying to be what I'm not, and going against every aspect of myself.
I also liked Louis' like random like horny asides about how much he thinks predators are hot. He does that a lot.
Yes, that was also great. Like he's great. He's great because he's like he has the thing with Juno, but he's like queer.
He's absolutely
more than the other characters.
That's why I was disappointed, I guess, when nothing happened. I was like, this is a coward move.
Yeah, but... like. His whole thing with I read somewhere that like they're like the lions, which was a little weird because they were all like these old mafia dudes, and he's like this like
one of the lions is young,
like, young guy, but like
yeah.
Oh, huh. But like one of the words they use is like slang for like gay stuff or something, like
yeah,
the gay
and that's what I was like.
I was like, yeah.
Does this author like know what she's doing? And the thing is, you know what I mean? Like I was like. You know what? I don't think we should analyze Beastars anymore. This is a Heavensward podcast. If I say any more, I'm gonna get angry.
Yeah. Okay, we can talk about Beastars. We should do like a cast where we just talk about like 5 anime.
If I speak any more about Beastars, I'm gonna get angry enough that other people are gonna get mad at me.
But yeah, okay, that was our Beastars aside. This is me telling myself where to put the timestamp.
I'm sorry, everyone. So, I shouldn't have talked about Beastars.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm forgiving you on part of the audience. Audience, if you really like Beastars, and you weren't prepared for that,
I'm also very sorry. I will say that I still read all of it.
Anyone clamoring for deeper thoughts, I will try to organize for that, because we definitely don't have enough topics to
anyway,
take us to Endwalker.
Okay, Heavensward. What was I talking about before I started talking about Beastars?
Okay, we were talking about the fucking game design.
I was talking about Eureka. Or not Eureka, Diadem. Because Eureka was good Diadem.
Yeah, Diadem. OG
Eureka
Diadem.
was good Diadem. Good OG Diadem.
Well, you were talking about like what it was like to play it on on launch.
So
and then we'll get into the story.
Like, you could spawn these like horrible monsters, and it was like you needed like at least like 50 people to take each one down. And people found the gameplay loop very unfulfilling. There wasn't really anything to do. There was no like leveling up system like there is in Eureka and Baja. So it was literally just like spawn in, kill monsters for what? Like there were like loot boxes, I think, but it just felt very like the gameplay loop was not compelling. So when they brought it back again, they brought it back such that you could now do like you would now have objectives to fulfill in every instance. So you would zone in with like a bunch of randoms, because you queue in randoms too, and then you'd have to fulfill the duties assigned to you. That was also not fun. And then eventually they just got rid of it completely. Yeah, and they brought it back in the form of Eureka, which is good DNM. Eureka was DNM with a leveling system tied to the relic weapon, so that people who want to do relic would have to do it. Also, it had a story. It had cutscenes. It had more than one map. It had a progression system, which I mentioned earlier, and then eventually it had the logo system, which allowed you to create builds. And that is now included in Bozja from the very beginning, the build system, which made Bozja really fun. So what I see is like a story of like successful iteration, not the failure of a product. You know what I mean? Because when a product fails,
yeah,
what people in leadership positions usually like to do is just to throw away completely, like cut your losses.
Yeah.
And that's not what they did. That's not what they did, so I think it's actually really respectable.
I have had a lot of my work
I've had a
cut.
lot of stuff that I've worked on also just completely thrown in the trash.
But I've also cut my own work a lot of times too. Fucking God. Before VTubers were a big thing, I used to do live 2D rigging, like professionally. And I still do sometimes, but I used to do live 2D rigging and animating professionally. And I hand rigged and animated this character. Her rig was great. I didn't have to throw out her rig. Thank fucking God, because I hate rigging. But her animations were like cute and bouncy, and they were really nice. And the director was like, "Noah, can you tone these down?" And I was like, "Ah!" I made her match to her VA's lines. It made me very sad that I had to cut them. But she was a little too expressive.
That's what doing creative work for a team is like, and that's, what I imagine it is like at Square Enix. I can't say for sure because I don't work there. But, as someone who works in like a similar field in a similar position, making creative work for a team that sometimes gets cut, like I know how it feels.
We could tell everybody that you did work on Cyberpunk and people would just have to believe us.
Well, I did say earlier that I'm not in the gaming industry, so I guess it's already provably false. I guess I can say I work on a consumer-facing product that,
Oh, did you watch the video essay that I sent you on Cyberpunk?
Okay.
We'll watch it
I work on a consumer-facing product that sometimes has features cut because of lack of user engagement. Yeah.
Interesting.
And a lot of times it's like stuff that I worked on.
We have talked about Heavensward, and we did have the fucking segue.
Okay, no, we can go back to Heavensward. So
we'll start on the story. We can.
I like talking a lot about like the product design parts, but because there's like two reasons why.
Fair.
One is like
that's fair. There's definitely an audience for it, and it's interesting to listen to.
I didn't pay too much attention to like the Heavensward story when I was first playing it because, like I said, this came off the back of ARR, which kind of felt like it wasn't too important to pay attention to this story. I enjoyed it, but I didn't like pay attention to it or even analyze it at the time.
I think it's interesting. Actually, my little brother, he listened to our podcast, and I want to like say this. He said that he really needs to replay ARR and Stormblood because I'm like almost quoting him. Like he said this to me like maybe half an hour before I started recording this cast. But he was like, I think the reason that I liked ARR, or the reason I liked Heavensward and Shadowbringers was because I used my heart to play them, and I didn't really need to use my brain.
I did. I used my heart to play Heavensward. I didn't use my brain.
And then he's like, but because he's not like super used to engaging with games. Like my little brother's like an actual gamer. Like when I say, like, I guess this is important context. I don't play a lot of video games. Final Fantasy XIV is the first non-strategy game that I've played, non-strategy and new game I've played since high school. Like, I've started playing more games since then, but I didn't play Automata on release. I only played Civilization, and then I would replay Shadow the Hedgehog every year.
This is revealing, Noah.
And yeah, Shadow the Hedgehog is one of my favorite games. the thing that I do is I replay and rewatch my favorite things pretty regularly to see if I still like them as much, and sometimes I slide down. Like Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood was like my favorite anime for a long time, and I rewatched it when I was like, I would rewatch it every year, and I rewatched it when I was like maybe like 18, and I was like, you know what, this isn't my favorite anime anymore.
Noah?
And now
what
I kind of yeah, it's not even in my top 10 anymore. I've just watched better anime since then. I think Brotherhood is like a broad story. I think like I just think I've watched more media that appeals to me personally now.
I get that.
Like
I get that.
Yeah. Like it's still a good story, but it's definitely not my favorite. Again, not even in my top 10 anymore. Because that's the thing. I have to reconsume the old stuff to make sure I'm not looking at it with nostalgia.
That's funny because I don't do that. I just remember what it looked like before. I'm actually afraid to do that because I'm like, what if I won't like it anymore?
I've done that with Evangelion, and I've done that with Brotherhood, where I'm like, I probably liked this more as a kid. I did that with Death Note pretty recently, too. Or not recently, like 2 years ago. And I was like, because I want to see if it still holds up. Because the thing is and sorry to go on this tangent, and this will tie back to 14. But like a lot of people were really mad when the 7 remake came out. They're like, oh, it's not like the original. And I'm like, the original is amazing in your brain because you played it when you were like 12. And like people are like, oh, it's not long enough. I'm like, the original's like 8 hours long, dude. It's like not that long. If I'm like, now I'm also talking about it with like nostalgia goggles because I also played it when I was like 12. But you gotta like what you consume when you're younger, you're not as you haven't had as much life experience, you haven't consumed as much media, you're not as harsh of a critic. So like when people say, oh, cartoons were so good when I was young, but they're not good anymore, it's like, yeah, because you were a fucking little kid. If you go back and watch the cartoons you watched when you were little, you'll see which ones actually still hold up to you as an adult. Like when people criticize like Steven Universe or whatever, right? I know that's like the punching bag.
I like Steven Universe,
like,
so.
And they're like, well, I like Steven Universe too. I mean, I have my critiques, but like, you know,
it's funny because my critiques of Steven Universe,
but it's like I don't
just on the show format.
Interesting. Like yeah, you have to like take into like I feel like a lot of people when they criticize stuff, they don't take into perspective what audience it was made for.
No, I agree.
It's just like. And so, getting back to, like, 14, that's why, like, replaying ARR, replaying Heavensward, replaying Stormblood, like, I went into them to see if my opinions hold up. Because I think that the first time you consume a piece of media, you can't give it the full analysis it needs. You can say if you like or dislike it, but I don't think you can give it a thorough analysis because, A, when you're playing for the first time, you're playing emotionally. And you are waiting for the next thing. When you go into a work knowing everything that's going to happen, you can play it a little more analytically. You can appreciate the production and the design a lot more. Like, I didn't notice how bad Heavensward's quest design was until Heavensward's quest design.
No, it was mean on purpose because that was like kind of the Heavensward design philosophy. It was like how much harder can we make this? How much more sophisticated? Yeah, how much can we pad this out? Design? How much harder can it get? That's why some classes like Black Mage became like really a lot harder in Heavensward than they were in ARR. Black Mage's an okay mechanic back in Heavensward was brutal. If you dropped it, it was gone for like a minute. Yeah.
God. But yeah, my little brother was watching the cast, and he's like, I think the reason that I liked Heavensward and Shadowbringers on first blush as much is because I didn't need to use my brain. But with ARR and Stormblood, I didn't realize just how much I missed until I listened to you guys' podcast. I was like, wow, only episode 1.
I feel the same because I also, like, I didn't really pay that much attention to it. I went back to it afterwards because I was interested in the lore. I wanted to, like, build my character for the first time because, like I mentioned before, for the most part, I played my character kind of like a player stand-in. You know what I mean? He wasn't a character.
Yeah, she literally called it like a meteor.
He basically was just like a meteor stand-in. I didn't really take it too seriously.
Meteor, but cuter. Yeah.
But yeah, what was I gonna say? I interrupted you and I don't know what I'm gonna say.
Thinking versus.
So something that you mentioned earlier, which was that you don't really play video games, stood out to me. Because I see that you play Final Fantasy like, you know, like a literature person, because you're engaging with it like it's literature, because it is literature. But
yeah, because I like my main, like, I like film, I like literature, and I like anime. So I like passive.
I find it very interesting because I engage with it like it was a video game, with the same amount of narrative importance that like narrative in like Monster Hunter has, which is to say none at all. You know what I mean? So I engaged with it like that.
I think it's interesting because I see 14 as like a visual novel almost, with just like some game stuff. Because the thing is I think it's really rare actually that the game design influences story. And we talked about this before. I think Tsukuyomi does a really good job of blending game and gameplay and story.
Another one of those for the Heavensward cast is the mechanic in Thornton X, which we mentioned before. We'll
talk about that. We'll talk about that towards the end. We'll talk about that towards, like, when we get to the end of 3.0. I think Seed of Sacrifice did it really well. I think Bosnia did it really well, and we'll talk about that, later on. I always say it felt like the Battle of the Bulge. I'm a big history guy, too.
I thought that the zone design was really good. People were like, it's too brown. And it's like, well, yeah, it's brown.
Well, yeah, it makes me feel like I'm in the trenches.
Rolling around in my my dwarf tank, which is not big enough for me to fit into.
Me with my fucking... Is it called Soldier's Foot?
Trench foot.
Like, trench foot, yeah. Wool gets trench foot. Wool gets trench foot arc. Anyways. Is that insensitive? No, we don't have trenches anymore. It's not insensitive. It's if it
turns out that people do have trenches,
anyways.
You're gonna look like an asshole.
We kind of do, but not in like wet, muddy areas. The Middle East is dry. I know what I'm talking. I'm from the Middle East. I'm allowed to make jokes about this. Anyways, so like, okay, so that's why like you'll hear me talking, like you'll hear Lee talking about the game design. Because I think while I'm interested in game design, I would more like talk about it like if we were talking like Nier Automata.
Yeah.
Right? Or like Spec Ops, where there's a lot more active gameplay. And I'm not, like, really good at gaming. Like, I don't, like, raid or anything much. Unless I want gear. Yeah, whereas Lee is, like, a...
Wow!
And game
I guess so. Not a legend, though. I just don't have time.
I was just saying that to get us demonetized. I love you.
I'll say it more if you want me to. We're gonna have a horde counter.
Wait. I guess that... Okay, well, we're at 3.
I'm just adding more work.
I'll put... God damn it! You know, it'd be funny if we added fucking Thanjeet.
Whore.
Thanjeet.
That was the call in the static. We'd be like horse to the front whenever someone got tethered. If it was like lightning tether, like whore to the front because it's just one. And then if it was like the fire tether, we had to stack to the butt. Everyone was like horse to the back.
I love that for you.
We've said whore quite a lot.
Okay,
now. I think we might. I don't know how many we're at now. Sorry, Noah.
Well, I'm gonna be looking at this in post. Whatever. I'm getting better at editing audio. Video, I could be doing better because that's like a line of work I've been in. So maybe I'll put a funky effect up on screen right now to show you guys, depending on how lazy I feel. And by lazy, I mean how hard I worked on commissions this week. So how burnt out I am. Anyways, so Heavensward, finally getting into the fucking story. But 2.55.
It was good.
A fucking banger.
It was so good.
That's where we left off last time. Incredibly intense. I would say, okay, while CT wasn't 2.55, I would say CT also leaves off in an intense place, and so did Coil. Like, all 3 of these things left off in a really cool place, a really dramatic place. The funny thing about
CT too is that we didn't really know if it was ever going to be continued. We didn't know if that was just going to be the end, because we didn't know if it would last that long.
Well, less in, like, a literal the things that happened, and more in, like, an emotional sense. The closing of all 3 of these arcs was, in a literal sense, it was exciting, because basically Nero was a part of the like, allied cast by then. So if you did CT, and you, like, go into Heavensward, you know, there's, like, is Nero gonna show up? Whereas, if you hadn't done it, it's like... Because it didn't used to be required, so the first time, I hadn't done CT yet. I did CT before Shadowbringers. I did it after Stormblood. I did it at the start of Stormblood. But if you didn't do CT, then you didn't know if Nero was going to show up. But if you did do CT, you went into it being like, oh, Nero could show up anytime.
And
he
does,
very
doesn't
afraid.
He?
But yeah, he shows up in the patches. No, he didn't. He didn't turn purple in the patches.
No. He turned purple in CT.
He turned. He turned purple in CT. He turned purple
I don't remember that.
in Omega. He's only turned
That's
purple
like,
twice.
It's weird that it's happened twice.
Okay, anyone in the comments who did the Easter event, because I don't remember, let me know if Nero was wearing a purple suit.
I want that to be like a running
I didn't
joke,
do
like
it.
anytime something is turning horrible, like Nero was like, I could turn purple if that helps.
I don't want it to happen because 3 times and he's out. Because he almost died both times he turned purple. 3 strikes and you're out. I'm scared. We talked about this. But like what I mean is like it's pretty somber. Like where CT ends off. Like Graha being sealed forever, regardless if he was gonna come back or
he
not.
even
Like,
says this
that's
thing
a pretty
is, like,
somber ending.
like, to like a better future, like where I can come out. And later you learn, obviously this doesn't fucking happen.
And then, like, Alize and Alphino, they get their, like, big character development, and we get some closure to the Louisoix stuff, especially if you played 1.0. And it's a little bittersweet, because they, like, let go of him.
This is also the reason why,
down their own path.
Back to Heavensward, people didn't like the Alex stories, because they felt like it didn't hold a candle to Coil.
I understand. But it's, like, I'll talk about the Alex story when we get there. But, like, oh god, I need to replay it. I haven't played it in 2 years. But but I think like both of those things alongside 2.55, like alongside the banquet, it's a strong primer. Like Heavensward in the banquet being the strongest like 0.55 patch, Heavensward ends up being the sorry, one second. I spaced out for a second. Heavensward ends up being like it has the strongest base.
Yeah.
For the expansions. I made the mistake of checking
right now.
And that's why I spaced it. I'm sorry. I usually have my mic angled in such a way where I can't see my Discord thing. And so like I didn't have my mic angled that way. And because I fucking ADHD brain, I was like, I have to click on it. I have to make the number go away. It's not even like I want to check my notification. I just fucking hate that button, the number. I'm like,
well, I can talk about Heavensward so you can check your notifications.
No, it's fine. I have a thought. I just need to let everyone know there was a reason for that. And I'm moving my mic so I can't see my Discord notifs. Anyways. But like it lays a good foundation is what I'm getting at. Like I think all 3 of those things like people don't think about it, but the way that they like coalesce I think really sets up the intro for Heavensward. And this is I wouldn't feel so harshly about Heavensward if it didn't like start so strong, like the opening cutscene, it's literally playing like the Heavensward,
the song theme is Heavensward. Really good. It's really like it's completely like dead on for the vibe that you are supposed to get going into Heavensward. I
will say I think Dragon Song is overrated. I don't remember
which one is which, honestly.
But I think Heavensward
fan.
Dragon Song is like it's the one that plays during Nidhogg.
I do. Okay, I think that one's also a little overrated. But I do.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that because it's bad. I'm just saying that because
it's good, but it's overrated. Like I'm going to talk about it a little later, but it's overused. I think that's Heavensward as well.
Why. Well, the thing is that with any kind of lead motif, if you play it too much, it gets a little bit boring. See, like Fire Emblem Fates. There was one like pretty short actually lead motif that was in like all the songs, and it played so much that people actually were complaining about it, which is funny because I actually liked it a lot. But I did admit that it was overplayed. But anyway. One of the songs that I did actually like from Heavensward was the CGI trailer theme, which is not Dragon Song. I don't think it is anyway. I might be wrong. I'm wrong a lot.
Yeah,
it wasn't.
Yeah,
Dragon
it wasn't.
Song. Okay, it wasn't.
It wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
I like that one a lot, and I don't remember if it comes back that often. Honestly,
the one with the male choral, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna go listen to it right now. It's so on my room.
But yeah, it starts off really strong. It's really like
okay, that one's
like
Heavensward,
that like
not Dragon Song.
It's the sad okay. The male
like the mournful one.
Yeah, the male choral. I'm thinking of the Heavensward portion of the
I think
Endwalker trailer.
Right,
that's what I'm thinking of. But no, the song Heavensward, the really like high pitched female vocal, like
so perfect.
Yeah, the operatic female vocal,
for the vibe that you're supposed to get.
the fact that it's like, it's not this like heavily like layered. So I think one of the most masterful things about Heavensward songs is their like
I 100%
simplicity.
100%
Like I think
wish
all
we could
of
play
the...
it, but I think we're not allowed because one, we're not.
Oh yeah, we're not.
I think
we're not allowed
because
of
one, we're
copyright.
not showing gameplay footage right now, and two, it's we're
I
not
mean, we
allowed
could
to use that one like at all. Actually, I think
we could show gameplay
we
footage
could,
at any point though.
but I think that one is just not allowed to be used at all. I don't think it plays in game either. I'm not sure. I don't remember. Remember. It might be like answers. You know what I mean? Because you can't play answers on the bard instrument either, even in game. Even though
Whoa,
it's a song
know
from
that.
Final Fantasy, I think it's some sort of like playback rights thing with Miss Susan Calloway, who follows everyone on Twitter apparently.
Interesting. Checking us for our copyright infringement. It's fair use. It's fair use. Why can't I use
like
it?
I
Anyways.
respect the rights of the others, but it's like it's.
No, I'm not gonna get into a tizzy over fair
I wish we
use.
could play it so that you could hear it, because just listening to this song gives me fucking chills. It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah,
it's
go listen
so
to it if you
good.
Like literally just go watch the Heavensward trailer.
we could just right
now.
to it.
Like pause this video, pause this podcast.
Like 100% listen to it, please.
Oh,
it is like that's why I keep talking so fast, because I'm listening to it right now, and it's like, oh, it's so good. It's so good.
It is really good. Like, I think it's incredibly strong. I think the music, this is the thing, the music in 14 is consistently strong. The only times I'm going to criticize it is when I talk about how it's used or misused. Actually. And so
this music's so
like,
good.
because like one of my favorite things to do is to just vibe in like areas in the game. And like every song is great. Every song is great.
The song
personally,
Heavensward,
I like
hits home for me, because was when I was really playing Final Fantasy. I was in college. I didn't have a lot of friends, and this is like when I met my friends in Final Fantasy, which was still a pretty small game at the time. And I remember, AFKing in like the Druvanian, like Forelands, the Hinterlands, listening to like the Heavensward leitmotif in the song. Like it's just like this like quiet, like like. Yeah,
it's haunting. It's haunting.
That one, you know what I mean? That one, like, is in all the zones, and I don't know, when I listen to it, I'm just like, I was...
The nostalgia is really intense,
a lot younger back then. I hadn't gone through a lot of stuff in my life. It was like... I've gone to...
You really grew up with this game,
has seen me go through a lot, I will say that.
This game is at least... You have been playing this game for at least 25% of your life.
Which is...
That's insane.
Yeah.
Not 25%, a little less. I'm doing my fractions wrong.
This game has been with me through a lot of, like, my...
Over 20%.
Like, growing into an adult, I guess. Which is,
Yeah, so you are Alpha.
I feel like I'm more like Meteor, who has become so, like, grizzled now.
You were Alphino, but now you're Meteor.
Anyway, the Heavensward trailer has the very beautiful armor snap that everyone likes to post as a GIF.
Yes, the very sexy one that I saw way before I even knew.
Oh, another thing. The
I also saw the
theme. Yeah, the Heavensward theme has Geranian in it. It's sung in Geranian, which it's a little hard to hear because it's a little bit like orchestral and the lyrics aren't very clear. But there are actually official lyrics. I'm just gonna like link this video to you, and so you can link it from the video, because there are lyrics in this video. And
okay, check the description.
And it's really interesting because Koji Fox has said before, this is a conlang, and I love conlangs because I also studied linguistics in college. Conlangs are super interesting, and you can actually see like syntax, you can see like vocabulary, and Koji Fox has admitted that he hasn't really written down all the details of Geranian anywhere. So like if in like the horrible case that he's no longer able to work on the game, like nobody's gonna know Germanian anymore, apparently. Koji, please write it down.
Koji Fox, in the astronomically small chance that you're listening to this, please write it down. Please write it down. I'm begging you.
I don't know. It's like when I think about it,
do it for my linguistics minor co-host.
I'm not a linguistics minor. I took like 3 linguistics minors in order to satisfy the requirement of a bachelor's of science. Because otherwise it would have been a bachelor's of arts.
Oh, I see. That's
like
the gayest thing you've ever said.
The Bachelor of Arts? The Bachelor's of Science thing?
You almost had a linguist or a Bachelor of Arts. Right? So you had to
imagine
do this. That's so funny.
Like a Bachelor of Arts? That's like 2 steps away from being an art major. People are gonna get mad at me for this.
Okay, listen, my pre-law major was a Bachelor of Arts because psychology falls under that. Or not psychology,
no. Okay.
Sociology does.
I don't want to say identifying information, but my major is commonly considered a science. It's just that in order for it to become Bachelor of Science at my university, I had to take classes in a different related field. So it could have been like math.
She ended up working in art anyways.
It could have been like math, it could have been statistics, but I chose linguistics because it interested me more.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, so, like, I think that, like, everything is taken away from us, but also there's this slight, you know, every not every Heavens, every 0.55 patch has the looking to the future motif. So I'm not going to hammer down on that too strongly, because of course it does. But I think that it was so sober. Like, I think about that scene of us, like, meeting with Alphino outside the like gutter that we ran through, basically, or not gutter.
Yeah,
sewer,
in that sewer also there were like
Minfilia.
2 people that you never really like. You didn't see Thancred again for a while. And you literally just didn't see Minfilia ever again.
Well, yeah, in your mind, you wouldn't, like, I knew Thancred and Y'shtola were coming back. Like, I knew because I had seen my fiance play a lot of Shadowbringer, so I was like, oh, they were coming back. But I didn't know if Ida, Papalimo, or Minfilia were coming back. I thought Minfilia was gonna, like, be reincarnated into a little girl. That's what I thought.
Wrong.
So I was like, oh, so this is how, like, she's gonna, like this, we're not gonna see her like this again. So I didn't go in, like, too scared, but I was like, wait, where's Ida and Papalimo? So I was a little worried about them. But they're the first ones who are gone. But it's, like, so, like, Alphino, like, God, like, he's so broken. And then Tataru, like, this is still an AR. Tataru, we're at 48 minutes. Tataru, she cries. And, like, I didn't play in English at this point, but hearing Maria Issei is a fucking amazing voice actress. She also voices Rei from Promised Neverland, Killua from Hunter x Hunter, and Anarctisite from Land of the Lost
Wow,
Dress.
she was? Wow, that's really good.
Yeah. She's also Svain's VA. I imagine him sounding like Antark. So, but she also does Tataru's voice, and if you guys have heard Tataru's Japanese voice, I'm gonna put a little clip right now.
She's got like a very teeny voice.
Maria Issei, again, incredibly talented because she can do that range of
like,
emotion while having that vocal range. She usually does, like, young men and then, like, androgynous types. So I was actually really surprised, too, because she doesn't usually do moe characters. I think it was Maria Issei. I'm like, 99% sure.
Wrong. Oh, wait, we need to make a correction.
Oh, God, I'm gonna...
at the beginning.
Yeah, oh God, we didn't do corrections at the beginning. We can do corrections now. My correction is Al Amigo is actually cold. I said it was hot last time, but it actually is cold.
Okay.
Like,
my correction is a little more egregious. It's that the person who shows up in your nightmare in 1.0 was actually Nail, and I remember this because Nail was the 1.0 villain more like, and Gaius was the 2.0 villain. That's why he was on the that's why he's on the covers. So I'm sorry, I was completely fucking wrong. But I find it interesting because I guess it is a little more indicative of what the Garlands were supposed to be to you in 1.0.
Yeah, I went back and I watched the cutscene, and then I, like, messaged Lee, like, yesterday night or something, and I was like, "That's Niall."
I was like, you gotta fix the video. You gotta fix the video. I was wrong.
Niall's my comp pet. So I was very offended. I think she's so sexy.
It makes me
especially in that armor,
like have it funny because her face is just like a femaleism face.
Well, yeah, you know, everyone draws her sexy. Fair. That's the point. I when I look at her, I always I know this isn't canon, but I always imagine her, like, looking like Noe from Dora who's actually my comp pet. Yeah, I fucking love Noe because, like, I got into 14 when the Dorohedoro anime was, like, airing, and that's when I got into Dorohedoro, and Noe is everything. She's my wife. I love her.
This explains a lot.
Oh my god, perfect woman. Perfect woman. And so in my brain, I just made a connection between Niall and Noe because they have, like, the similar names, and they're both, like, white-haired, huge women. And so I just started, like, I drew Niall a few times, and I drew her, like, with Noi's body type, and I was like, okay, this is canon to me now. So they're both my wives, but Noi's my, like, cute wife, and Niall's my evil wife, who calls me a bitch and steals my Pepsi.
And puts meteors down that blow up.
Yes, and I love her. When she turned into, like, a big slime woman in Ruby Weapon, that fucking cemented it for me.
I was like,
oh my god.
Certain people who are very into slime women will like this.
Yeah, me. She, like, she gave, like, the evil grin, and I was like, this woman wants me dead, and I want her to make me dead. And then she did, because I don't do extremes. Anyways. That was actually my first extreme. That was my first extreme.
My first extreme was Sephiroth, which was actually it's relevant because it was a Heavensward extreme, and I remember because someone yelled at me for being bad at healing.
That's so funny. Okay, so Heavensward starts out with, like, the strongest tone. Like, it has the strongest foundation.
No, I would argue that Shadowbringers is better.
Well, we can agree to disagree.
No, I don't think it's bad,
because
but I just think that in comparison, Shadowbringers also knocks it out of the water.
No, I think Heavensward does better. I really do. Fucking insane thing.
Given that you don't like Heavensward.
Given how I feel about it. For scale rating, I'm going to explain how I rate things. Everything starts at a 5. For every bad thing it does, I take off a point. For every good thing it does, I
That's very
put
sophisticated.
a point on.
I just give numbers based on my heart.
If And so Heavensward is a 2 out of 10. And Stormblood, I would say, is an 8 out of 10 for me. And Shadowbringers, I would say, okay, Stormblood and Shadowbringers are both an 8 out of 10 for me.
Sorry, I'm having such a nostalgia moment right now. I'm listening to the Heavensward soundtrack so that I can get in the mood, and the Fractal Continuum theme started playing, and I have such strong memories of turning this on in the university library doing miserable physics piece sets, and everyone else was, like, sitting around, like, you know, looking sad, and I was like fucking jamming to this dungeon theme.
That's so funny. But yeah, I would say Stormblood and Shadowbringers are both an 8 out of 10 for me, but for, like, different reasons. Like, distinctly different reasons. Because, whatever. Anyways, so, and Nier Automata is a 10 out of 10. Okay, so that's like it's like a scale for you. And so it starts off really strong. And I think one of the really intelligent things to do was the reset. I think this is actually where Stormblood fails most strongly, is that Stormblood does not do the reset. The reset is, I think both End of Stormblood, so Shadowbringers, and then Heavensward both do this, in that, obviously ARR does it, because you're literally the new guy. Stormblood fails to do this because we know so much about Alamigo at that point. Like, if Alamigo was something we'd never heard of, then it would also be a reset. But because we know about Alamigo,
I think that's why they brought us to Kugane, which otherwise more or less unmentioned.
Yeah, that's where we're reset. Because, like, in Heavensward, the Ishgardians may, like, some of the high houses may have, like, a vague idea of who the Warrior of Light is, but nobody really knows who you are, whereas, like, you're famous in the rest of Eorzea. Which is why Heavensward couldn't take place in Eorzea.
It is in Eorzea, but...
And so you have no...
Lower Eorzea, we'll say that.
Well, yeah, but you know what I mean. Like, you have no reputation here. And so you have to build a reputation. Granted, I don't think Stormblood needed it for its own ends, because what Stormblood does is, rather than establishing a new status quo at the start, it breaks... It plays into the status quo and then it crushes it during Rulgers, and we'll talk about that there. But Shadowbringers does this by taking you to literally a new world, which is, like, I think that's cool, and I think it's a really cool callback to ARR, because Shadowbringers obviously calls back to ARR a ton. But Heavensward doesn't need to call back to anything to do that, and I think that's good. Like, I think it's good that it's like, the Dravanians and the Holy See are completely new enemies. Now, granted, they're very steeped in cultural consciousness. And this is really important. If you consume media, you have played like, if you are a regular consumer of media, I'm not talking about younger people, because young people don't just, the younger you are, the less media you've generally consumed. That's a given. Your taste becomes more sophisticated as you get older because you've consumed more media, and so you can compare different pieces of media against one another. You've also had more life experiences, so you can compare your experiences against the media that you've consumed and analyze it more thoroughly and deeply. And so, if you're, if you're an adult who's playing Heavensward, you've probably consumed this story in some capacity before. Like, why was it so obvious that the Holy See was evil? Because we know this trope. Obviously, we also know the trope of dragons. Icy, tall, gothic castles. We know this. Church bad. We know this. These are very classic. Dragons. That was a little new. But, like, these are all very familiar. Like, I think Heavensward taps very deeply into a established cultural consciousness of media, both for people who have not experienced it, i.e. the Japanese or the Chinese or the Koreans, because there's a huge player base of them, and, like, obviously for them, this isn't deeply cultural to them, but they've seen it in media that they've consumed, foreign media they've consumed so much, or foreign influenced media as well. Whereas with Western audiences, it is steeped into the culture. Like, you almost can't, like unless you live in a really isolated country and you've never consumed other media, or you're really, really young. Like, I know some people who played Heavensward when they were, like, actually 15. And, like, I imagine for them it might feel fresh. But, like, we knew church was evil because we've seen evil church before. Like, we've been here before. We've seen Thoradin before. We've seen Nidhogg before. I know Nidhogg's, like, an actual, like, mythological thing, but, I mean, like, the character. We've ostensibly seen, like, I mean, obviously, if you've played Final Fantasy, you've definitely seen Estinian before, because he's, we've seen Estinian before. I didn't play 4, but, assumedly, he's Kain, right? He's Kain from 4. But we've seen Estinian before, we've seen Aymeric before, we've seen Hart. Like, these characters, we've been here, we've met them. Heavensward, I personally think it did well, because it was the familiar. And, I don't think, I say this in a good way and a bad way, because Shadowbringers is also a familiar story, but I think Shadowbringers is really good, whereas I think Heavensward is really, really bad. And I'll get into that more as we go through it. But I don't necessarily think tapping into a cultural consciousness or treading the same land that's been tread before, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Because everybody's going to, despite the fact that we've been here before, this is a different tour guide. And this tour guide is going to describe the scenery to us much differently. Every team's going to show it to us in a different way. And I think it was really smart to put us in a setting that is not familiar to the wool, but is familiar to the player. To put us in a headspace that's familiar to the player, but not to the wool. Because that allows us to rebuild our character from the ground up, without us needing to necessarily be introduced to concepts. The actual lore of the universe, i.e. primals, ether, etc., we understand that from ARR. The tone and the general idea of what's to come, we understand that because, again, we've consumed this story before. So we're allowed to focus on the characters. Heavensward, for all intents and purposes, is not story-driven, or shouldn't be.
I kind of agree.
Rather.
I mean, like I said before in the last episode, Heavensward was during, like, maybe the peak of Game of Thrones. And it is obvious. Probably, like, people on the staff enjoyed Game of Thrones. Like, they wanted the vibe. It was really popular back then, this flavor of dark fantasy. And
yeah, my boyfriend was playing Dark Souls 3 for me, and it is also very Dark Souls.
No,
like,
not intensely
but
I think that might be because it was the same genre, the dark fantasy genre. Like, Final Fantasy emulates a lot of genres. It doesn't do them completely because it still has to be Final Fantasy 14. You get what I mean? But the genre it was emulating for Heavensward was dark fantasy, I think. Well, on some level, not all the way.
Yeah, I actually think it's interesting to me. Stormblood is more tonally dark fantasy, but aesthetically, Heavensward is more dark fantasy. Heavensward is surprisingly
like a pretty traditional fantasy, I guess. There's, like, the evil pope, the dragons.
Yeah.
The good guys you meet are good guys the whole way.
Yeah, it's I'm very serious when I say this. I didn't know anything. Heavensward is the one X pack I didn't know anything about going in, because Stormblood, like, I'm not saying you can't have, because like there are things that happen in Heavensward that if you haven't played Heavensward, like if you only cutscene skip in Heavensward and you play the rest of the game, you won't understand certain things. This is just a given with the whole story. The whole story feeds into itself. However, Heavensward is the X pack that is most removed from the rest of the story. Like, Shadowbringers is much more deeply integrated.
This is not
Shadowbringers.
For a lot of Heavensward, the Ascians are like barely there. It was only when like Thoradin was revealed to be like an Ascian puppet that they came into play, and then there was like the last boss of Arf, where it's La Habrea and Iggy, and it was like oh god, these guys again. Like I remember it was just that vibe. Actually, for a while when Ascians kept showing up, it was like these guys again, like, you know, from Realm Reborn.
And then, like, we very briefly see the Garleans, and
I
like,
think
that's
the
only,
meta
like,
reason for that
really.
they didn't know if Final Fantasy XIV was ever going to get another expansion again. They said straight up they didn't know that. When they made Stormblood, they had like the roadmap.
Yeah, I think that's why Stormblood was, because Stormblood, I will say, is a very experimental expansion, both in terms of like the gameplay, because they shake it up so much, and in terms of the writing. Like, it's very unique. Stormblood is incredibly unique. As a consumer of media, I will say it's incredibly unique, and the fact that people don't respect it is because people see it as a mainstream product. If you look at Stormblood as an art house, like, if you look at it as art house, then you'll appreciate it much more. But I'll get into that when we get into that. Heavensward is very rote. It's very by the numbers. And again, that's not a bad thing. I fucking love Shadowbringers. I would say I fucking loved ARR, and ARR was a bit rote
was
as
really
well.
rote. ARR was like...
So,
it was pretty much like... When I played it, I was like, oh, like, this is like the general, like, Final Fantasy trope in an MMO.
It's an MMO, yeah.
Because I've played, like, I haven't played many, like, Final Fantasy games before, but I have played, like, Final Fantasy spin-offs, and it's like, oh, you know, there are adventures, there are crystals, there's the evil, like, technologically powered, like, enemy nation. It was like, yeah, like, that's, you know, that's Final Fantasy.
And so... So it starts out tonally strong, and I would recommend, because I've done both ways, because it's the first time you get the branching quest. At the beginning of every expansion, you get the branching quest. And in Shadowbringers, it was the Alize Alphino ones. In Stormblood, it was Mefred and Monago, and in Heavensward, it's Emanolane. Like, you briefly look around the city, you go to the Four Toms house, and then you have to do either the Emanolane or the Artoirel questline. Last time I did Artoirel's first because I thought he was really sexy. And then I did Emanolane second. But this time I did Emanolane's first and I did Artoirel's second. And I think that's how that's how I would recommend playing it, because what happens is that it starts off with this dark tone, right? It's very dark. And I think it sort of lightens up as you get to the Four Toms Manor. You're eased into it. Like, I'm actually going to be praising Heavensward for the next bit. You're eased into it, and it's very, like, you slowly get comfortable, and then you see this, you know, they're very tropey. You know, Haurchefant's silly, wacky little brother, and then his stern, orderly older brother. And if you go with his wacky younger brother, you're further eased into comfort. And so you do Emanolane's quest, and it's a little funny, and he's kind of useless. It sets up his arc later, which I think is one of the best arcs of a Heavensward character. Like, I wouldn't call Alphino a Heavensward character.
Emanolane was,
but it
like,
sets up that arc.
Widely disliked, actually. They were like, this useless noble boy. Yeah.
He still is.
He had a reputation for being useless.
He still is. Like, my friend... Yeah, my friend, shout out to Gray if you're listening. I don't know if you listen to these, but my friend Gray, like, drew this beautiful picture of Emanolane and Honoroy, and it got retweeted by, like, the official Final Fantasy Twitter, and, like, people, like, commented that they hated Emanolane,
they will
like,
say that. They, like, still
art.
say it on Reddit and stuff. Yeah, people don't like him.
People fucking hate him. But I really like... People hate him because they see themselves in him. I'm not gonna lie. He's a useless man baby. Like that's what he is.
Some people don't like him because he's, like,
he's useless.
Like a womanizer or something.
What? Okay, well, hate Thancred too then. Fuck you.
Well, some people could argue that Thancred is one for, like, espionage purposes, I guess, and Emanolane is just one because he likes women.
No, because he told Moonbreed I'd stick his dick in her. He told her that. He did. Oh, he didn't say it like
Waters.
that, but yes, he was
Mr. Waters.
Mr. Waters.
I'm gonna have to call. No,
Urianger,
the Scion's like human relations department.
Yeah, the HR department. That's just Minfilia. It's fucking nepotism. Yeah. No, it was in ARR. Like while Moonbreed there, Thancred, like if you go talk to him, he's like laying down on the table,
yeah,
and he's like drunk, and yeah, and he's like you're all right, I do you to Moonbreed.
I thought he was saying that to you.
It was really fun. No, he was saying it to Moonbreed. It was really funny because if you talk to Moonbreed, she like responds to him. She's like you may think I'm all right, but I'd never with you. Like it was really funny. She was like rejecting him.
He was talking. It was
great.
Me.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Lee. Sorry to disappoint. You get your shippy moments with Thancred later. You literally father a child with him later. Don't worry. Yeah, you forgot the Thancred Emperor.
Right, you're right.
Anyways,
talk about that in Shadowbringers.
We'll talk about that in Stormblood and Shadowbringers because I think it's relevant to both. Anyways, so Immanalane is like childish, and that's generally I think people like because people dislike people who react realistically to trauma, and I'm not saying that the characters in 14 don't generally like react realistically. It's just they react realistically relative to the world. Immanalane reacts closer to how one of us would react. Not 1-1. He's still a knight. He still responds better than any of us would.
He also has a lot more responsibility than any of us.
But he reacts
too. He also has a lot more responsibility too because he is a knight.
Yeah. But he responds closer to how we'd react. Like, none of us would be like Artoyrel or Haurchefant. None of us are that cool. Get over your fucking self. Okay, you are, but you're a lesbian, so it's different. But to anyone in the audience who's not a lesbian, none of you are that cool. None of you would respond that coolly. And so, like, yeah, Immanalane is, I wouldn't say he's an audience stand-in. He's very obviously is not. However, he is uncomfortably relatable. Because he's pathetic. He's pathetic and he's jobless, which is exactly how I feel, even if I do have a job. Anyways, it's so strange having a job and still feeling like you're jobless. Like, I work like 10 hours a day and I still feel jobless. What the fuck? It's because none of us make enough money to dig ourselves out of the rut that capitalism keeps us in.
Here we are.
There's your leftism for today.
No, I want to say the leftist thing later, which is that the House of Lords stuff. We'll comment on that.
Oh yeah, we'll talk about that when I go on the fucking Amaric rant. So Immanalane, he even like the dark part of his story, because it's like funny, it's fun. Camp Cloudtop is pretty. This is also important. Like it's he says like compared to the rest of Korthus, it's positively balmy. That's like what like one of the knights says like specifically. I thought it was really funny because it was still cold. Like he said it's cold, but compared to the rest of Korthus, it's not that cold. So I always imagine the wool like shivering. And he's like, it's not bad. That's what going to Chicago is like. That's funny. I like that. That is what going to Chicago is like. But so like Camp Cloudtop is pretty. It has all this foliage. The enemies are like cute. Like you have like the dodo and the gale cat. Like everything there puts you at ease. And I think that after like the Four Tomps, when you meet them, they're warm. Like Artoyrel, not as much. He's like, Dad, are you sure about this? And then Edmont's like, no, he's Haurchefant's friend. Like the world's Haurchefant's friend. Like, be nice. And, you have these, like, the two cutest scions are your companions. It's Alphino and Tataru. Like, they're so cute. And then I realized this because I was drawing Alphino earlier. His Heavensward outfit is based on a Seifuku. Like, it has the Seifuku collar. And it's so cute. Alphino is so cute. It has a Seifuku collar and the little tie. And that makes him even more cute, because he looks like he gets the new outfit, so he looks like a little schoolboy. It's adorable. And, he's tiny. Like, unless you're playing a Lalafell, your wool is going to... I don't know about Aura. I don't know if Mid-Height Aura are close. But, like... Yeah, but I play like 30 on the height slider Mikode, Femme Mikode. And like my wool is like significantly taller than him. So he's like this small little guy in like a Seifuku, and then like you have Tataru, who's just like, she's just like a little sugar cube. Like they're just so cute. And so it's like you, the hero, the haggard hero, you walk through the mists, you're introduced to this, and the music in Ishgard is so serene. So after this hard thing that happened to you, maybe there's a smidge of light. And then you go and do Emaneline's quest. Again, I recommend Emaneline's quest first. Emaneline is funny, he's a little bit useless. You've dealt with incompetent people before. Camp Cloudtop is a beautiful vista. First of all, it showcases the change in like
something
the
that
scope
I find
of the
funny
game.
is that the writing direction in both AR and Heavensward was to surround the world with comedically incompetent NPCs. This is not something that you see so often in modern Final Fantasy writing, but it was really common to just be surrounded by NPCs who could not like fucking wipe their own ass. Even if you gave them instructions, it would be like quest directive, wipe NPC's ass. So like it was like that, and I think also this was the reason why a lot of people had this like the Warrior Blade is underappreciated attitude, which I noticed that they are deliberately steering away from now. I think it's kind of funny. They must be aware.
I would say Emaneline is like a direct call out to that too, because Emaneline and Artoirel both, because they're like, Dad, are you sure about this guy? And then both of them get swayed over by like seeing you in action. But even like, because like in Camp Cloudtop, eventually the Zundu, that's what
I don't remember which ones are the nice ones.
The Zundu.
I don't remember which ones are the nice ones.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't remember the Beast Tribe, like their species name.
Oh, I'm a fake fan.
I'm a fake fan. I'm a fake Beast Tribes fan.
It's
something with a V, I think.
So they're
the Vundus.
Oh no, they're the Vanu. Sorry, that's their species name.
Oh, the Vanu.
And there's the Gundu, the Vundu, and the Zindu. And the Vundu are the mean ones. The Gundu are the nice ones. Wait.
Okay.
The Gundu and the
you
Zindu
run into
are the nice ones. Sorry, there's too many birds.
Oh yeah, I mean this is the X pack where you literally have to farm for them. So, but the Vanu, they attack you, and like we're used to beast tribes and we're used to primal summonings. Like these are, even if this is a threat, even if it gets dark, Haurchefant comes and saves you. Haurchefant and Cid, two familiar faces. You fight a relatively familiar enemy. So at the end of the day, even the dark things in that are familiar. This is all territory we've tread. And it leaves you with this sense of there is danger in this place, but nothing we can't handle. And our friends are at our sides. But when you go to Korthus with Artoirel, everything gets strange. And I really like it. Like, I really liked early Heavensward. I really did. It made me so excited. So you go to the little encampment, and then you have the solo duty where you have to like go to a cabin, and during the solo duty, like they have this like atmospheric I wouldn't call it fog, it was just like snow, but I'll call it fog for simplicity's sake. Like it was like atmospheric fog that like, and like footprints, and you had to follow after somebody. You had to follow over like a basically a terrorist, like one of Izael's, lackeys. You had to follow after him, and you didn't know where you were going because of the particle effects. Like they were hiding everything, and I mean Korthus is this like dead, frozen wasteland, and you have to like trudge through it. It was spooky. It was actually scary, and then you come across this like haggard, like decaying wood cabin. You go to the bottom, you fight like some cultists. Yeah. That's what they're called, cultists. And then you talk to Iceheart, and yeah, Iceheart is familiar, but she's scary at this point. She's a woman who can become a primal. And I know, like, for us, that's not a big deal. We know who Iceheart is going into this. I would hope you do. But the woman who can become a primal, that is frightening. She has the same power as you, and with Minfilia gone, she's the only person who has the same power as you, as far as you know. She's your one connection to Hydaelyn, and she speaks to you cryptically, and it's just so spooky. And it's so scary, and it shocks you back into the reality that you are in an unfamiliar place fighting unfamiliar enemies. And it was so cool. It was so cool. And the thing is like, you don't have a funny little buddy at your side. It's just you and her. it was intimate, and it was frightening, and it was intense, and I really liked it.
I don't even remember that part. I'm sorry.
And so and then you go back and you like do your little report, and Artoir and Madeline are like, wow, I guess the wool is incompetent.
Wow.
We like you now. As quest givers
Wow.
are. Wow. And then Estinian shows up. You can take the lead here, right?
So sorry.
I don't remember everything.
No, I don't
perfectly.
remember anything
I'm
like
so
at
sorry.
all. I haven't played Heavensward in quite a while.
Oh God,
I did.
Oh,
I even
God.
played it twice, but the thing is that
I don't want to.
both times I didn't use my brain. I just enjoyed it.
And then Estinian shows up. This is where like Estinian and Alphinaud's friendship starts. And Estinian, like, if you've played the Dragoon quests, Estinian recognizes you when you meet him. Like, you meet Aymeric and Estinian and Ezel. Like, you meet all the major Heavensward players, like, before Heavensward. And your interactions with Aymeric are, like, they're actually kind of tense, which is why I thought Aymeric was going to betray you. I was like, he's way too nice. By the way, this is where Aymeric starts to become the Minfilia of Heavensward, where you have to, teleport back into Foundation, and then you have to, like, go talk to him to turn in your quests. I don't know why people hate Minfilia for this, but not Aymeric, when it's just as annoying. Like, you have to run through... I wonder why. I think it's interesting that Aymeric's main color is blue and Minfilia's is pink. Like, that's so...
Final Fantasy is not...
Like, that's cartoonish to me.
It's not here to be subtle. I don't even think that's a bad thing, but it must be acknowledged.
Neither am I.
I don't. Not here to be subtle.
Well, yeah, with how stupid some of the fucking fans are, yeah, they need to be even less subtle. Apparently, I'm gonna be me. Like some people are like, Alice literally says, if I was in Emmett Selk's position, I would do the same thing as him, and people are still like, oh, they made me empathize with the bad guy, or like Xenos literally verbatim says, and the other characters are like, what the fuck? He's like, I did it because I love the thrill of battle. And people are like, oh, he has no motivation. It's like, yes, he does. Fucking morons. Like, these are like main text things that are said and people still ignore them.
There's a lot of thinking about that message that says you have to be able to read to play this game. Well...
Oh God. Yeah, people who don't read DNI. You guys are mercifully saved from me talking about the fandom until we're done with the last Shadowbringers cast, but after that it's Noah Unleashed.
No, I can't.
And by Noah Unleashed, it's me bitching as much as I can, and then Lee telling me how much to cut and post.
I can't tell you because I don't really know that much, honestly. I know what my friends have shown me, and...
That's true. I'm actually not that plugged into the fandom anymore either. When I talk about it, I mostly talk about like what people were talking about like a year or two ago. Lately I'm not plugged in, so when I talk about fandom, I'm talking about the things I dealt with when I was playing through the story.
Like, when I think about fandom, it's like, for the longest time when I was playing Final Fantasy, I didn't really feel like there was a fandom. There was a community, but not a fandom. I kind of lurked on Reddit and stuff, and when I tell you about like knowing like player perceptions of characters, it's from like front page Reddit comments, which may or may not be the most sophisticated analysis of the game, but are quite.
I mean, it's not like,
but they're like quite visible. You know what I mean? They're visible. They're out there, and they were popular. These are popular opinions.
Yeah.
On the front page of Final Fantasy Reddit, I should say, which is its own place.
What I generally, like, I'll take it as fandom consensus if it's a popular sentiment on Reddit and Twitter. Like, popular Western people weren't even fandom,
using Twitter, though. It was
sentiment.
This is Tumblr days. Oh, God.
Yeah. Twitter was considered a lot
Twitter
more
was like the
respectable
normie
back
site.
then. Not anymore.
Yeah.
When this was airing. But, again, Western fandom only, but, so I think that it does, like, a really, like, I think, again, if you do it in that order, then I think tonally you're lulled into a false sense of security and then immediately thrown out of it. Because Ezel says some really cryptic things about the Holy See.
Yeah, she does.
And so she's like, and then you're forced back into Ishgard, and it's like, wow, I can't trust anyone around me. For me, it was stressful, because Aymeric was the Lord Commander of the Temple Knights, and I was like, oh my god, I can't fucking trust this guy. I'm turning all my quests into this guy. I can't fucking trust him. And that, like, I still liked, like, okay, I liked him at the time, because I was like, oh my god, he's good, like, they're doing such a good job of making me think that this is a nice boy. And when they pull the rug out from under me, it's gonna be like I almost thought that they were being a little too much. Like I was almost like he was too nice. Like I think I've heard this like
is because I read into like media clues more than I read into like characters telling me things. You know what I mean? Because if a character tells me something, they could be lying. But if the creator is trying to show me something through like media, like visual devices, storytelling devices, I can generally trust what they're doing. Because if they're leading me down the wrong road, that's bad writing.
That's entirely fair. That's entirely fair. But the thing is Estinian was not Estinian. Who's the cast? You have Harshaphant. I'm not going to count him here because Harshaphant is more like a carryover from ARR. He's a minor character. So let's say Estinian, Izael, and Aymeric, and then Thor.
Yeah.
Look at their designs, right? Aymeric is the Lord Commander, Aymeric's the Lord Commander of the Temple Knights.
He's
that was
also
the
handsome.
biggest thing for me. Okay.
This is like a stand-in, like a lot of times for.
Yeah, but so is Xenos.
I disagree with you.
Yeah,
I'm not one of those people. Mind
the
you,
people.
but...
You're literally not one of those people, so you can't even speak for them. I'm sure there's people who don't think Aymeric is handsome, like me. But
I think he's designed very clearly to be. Like
I don't care if
which is why I did never suspect him. But that's because one, fair. I know Final Fantasy is not here to be subtle. If Final Fantasy were here to be subtle, it could have.
I guess I should have known because he had dark hair, subtle, right?
I know that if Final Fantasy designs a character looks like a good guy, he probably is a good guy.
I don't know. Because, okay, my friend's doing a port for Aymeric's face, right? And he had it open in, like, the program. And like, I don't know, like, if it was just because his character looks like this, or if it's because, like, he was just testing it. But it was, like, basically Dusklight Aymeric, where he had, like, gray skin and, like, white hair. And I'm like, oh, yeah, this is a villain.
I guess
this is a villain.
Like that.
But, yeah, but he looked good. He looked sexy, and I don't think he looks sexy normally. I don't like how he looks. I don't like how he looks because I've had to draw him for commissions, and I hate drawing his armor. This is incredibly biased. This is like exceedingly biased. No, I don't like. I know Aymeric's supposed to be like an Ikemen, and I really like his like hair. And like jokes aside, I think like his armor is like gorgeous, even if I hate drawing it. But I don't like his face that much. Like, I don't think his face is very handsome, but that's just me. Anyways, but like I also like I looked at Aymeric next to like Iceheart and Estinian, who had these kind of like edgy designs, right? And I was like, okay, so the edgy boys are going to turn out to have hearts of gold and be nice, and Aymeric is going to turn out to be evil. And that might be my own fault for like looking too much into it based on how like other media does it. But he ended up being a good boy, and I was surprised by that, but not in a good way, because it was almost too straightforward. Is very straightforward. Like,
that's just how it is.
Final Fantasy is very straightforward, but I think, like, if Shadowbringers had been as straightforward as Heavensward was, it wouldn't be good.
Shadowbringers was pretty straightforward. It had that tagline but of being, like, the subversion. You know what I mean? So that's why it was a little different.
Yeah, but I still think Shadowbringers was, yes, like, Stormblood is straightforward, but Stormblood does so much stuff that's, like, different. Stormblood is straightforward within the context of Final Fantasy. I actually don't think it's straightforward in the context of wider media.
No, I don't think so either, actually.
But Heavensward is too straightforward for me. Like, way too much. And, like, again, I'm not like, oh, I'm upset that the story didn't go the way that I wanted it to. But I am, like, I'm disappointed with Aymeric's character. He was pretty good in post-Heavensward, but in Heavensward he was just a block of cheese, and not even, like, good cheese. So, like, I feel about Aymeric the way I think most of the, like, rotten part of the fandom feels about Minfilia. Straight up. But you go back, and, you know, you talk to Estinian, who, up until now, like, even if you've only done the Dragoon quest, he's just this incredibly strong, edgy boy who has a lot going on and has a really depressing backstory. And this is where I defend Estinian, despite the fact that I don't think he's a good character in Heavensward. Yeah. Estinian's been through a lot. He watched his family die. He watched his family get burned to death by a dragon. One of those common for
Heavensward, like, terrible to the point of caricature backstories.
Yes. Estinian, well, I actually think, okay, even though it was a dragon that killed his family, I think Estinian's story is kind of down to earth. I'm gonna say why. awful being that you cannot comprehend comes to your village and massacres the people
Right.
you love right before your eyes. After that, the opposing militia takes you in and abuses you and indoctrinates you to absolutely loathe these people to the point of
Right.
like you could never forgive
I mean,
them.
I think it's super interesting how the Dragoons, you know, they literally take in orphan children who hate dragons.
And then they abuse them into hating them even more. To the point where, like, if you do the Dragoon 50, 60 stuff, like because if you consume dragon blood, you become a dragon. If you're an Ellison. That's a thing. And so I don't know why they don't just make heroes dragons.
It's because
Anyways,
you have to be
Dragoons.
a descendant of the original, the knights. You have to be a descendant of the original knights because those are the ones who first infused themselves with dragon power. So you could technically be a hero who had this, but you have to have been at one point a descendant of an Ellison.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have to be like mixed. But the chick, she like consumes her dragon blood, and then she's like, "Oh God, I'm gonna turn into a dragon. My dad's gonna hate me. I'm a heretic." Blah blah blah. And it's like, how deep does the like? And this is where we get back to the Catholic guilt, where it's like, how much Kool-Aid have you drank? How deep does this fountain run? Hellenic guilt, literally Hellenic guilt. And Estinian has that, and I think Estinian was completely justified in being he wasn't justified, but explains why he was a douchebag, explains why he was so mean to Iceheart, because Iceheart is a cultist terrorist from his perspective. She summons primals, which we don't think is a big deal at this point. Like, we the audience, we the audience as in we the fandom, not even we the audience. At the time, it might have still been a big deal, but like, she turns into a primal, which is heretical from our perspective, and she likes dragons, which is heretical from the Ishgardians' perspectives. I almost think her turning into a primal was so that we would have a relating through line to the Ishgardians. So I think Estinian, like, being so, like, even though I love Izael, and I think she's a great character, like, I think him being so snappy to her is perfectly fine.
Are people mad at him because he's
I think it's perfectly fine. Yeah, this is a really common sentiment in the fandom, and I think it's stupid. I think a lot of the Estinian, and I don't like Estinian. I don't like Heavensward Estinian. I like post-Heavensward Estinian. I don't like Heavensward Estinian, but I will say, I think it's fucking stupid if your criticism of him is that he's mean to Izael or he doesn't like her. 'Cause, again, I think he's, like, totally justified. Like, imagine, like, somebody shows up, kills everybody you love brutally before you, and then somebody else shows up and she's like, no, I like these people. They're good. They're fine. They were justified in, like, killing, you know, your family. Like, they were in pain, so they killed your family, so it's okay. That's basically what Estinian's dealing with.
I'm kind of surprised that anyone would be mad at him, you know, for that.
Like, there are people legitimately read him this way, and I'm like, bro. Okay. So, sorry, that's... And like, I think we immediately understand he's a softie because they give him Alphino, right? And, like, Alphino's this, like, you know, squeaky toy. I'm gonna insert, like, squeaky toy sound and show Alphino on the screen right now. But Alphino, that's literally what he is. He's so cute. God, ever since I realized his Heavensward outfit's a Seifuku, I've been, like, going nuts over it. He's just so cute. He's, like, he's a little marshmallow. He's just so adorable. He's this little mage boy. He's just so cute. He's like, whoa, you were adventuring without me.
I think you're projecting
like
a little.
He's much more mature than that. He's so cute. I love him. He's so cute. But Alphino's like, you know, he's this like kid, and you've mostly been dealing with adults, and he's your like comfy kid companion, and so you're like, yeah, let's go, Estinian, let's fucking go. How did Izael join us? I don't fucking remember how Izael joined our journey.
Here we are, the Heavensward podcast where we don't remember shit.
Here we fucking are.
I think this is a testament to how some of the plot lines in Heavensward, to how some of the plot lines in Heavensward are kind of cobbled together in such a way that you don't even remember how they came together. It's like, I know at some point we go to the Sea of Clouds, we do some stuff, we come back, and then we go to like Somal, talk with dragons, to parley with dragons, and then Izael like shows up. I don't remember how she shows up, but she's like there for that.
No, we parley with the dragons because of Izael. I do remember that. Okay, so I'm reading right now. What happens is Alphino's like, what if we just talked to her? So of course it was Alphino. Of course Alphino, because that went Alphino so well last time.
It didn't go too bad this time though.
Alphino. Well, jokes aside, I think it was fine, because if, like, Alphinaud's whole thing was like, "Ooh, let's do the militia
Alphinaud's whole thing
in,
was
in post AR."
trusting people. Maybe sometimes when he shouldn't have.
Yeah. And so he's like, let's do this. And so we light the fire, and then Ezale shows up, and then we talk, and then we're like, okay, let's go fuck Hraesvelgr. We shake hands with Ezale.
She's like, yeah,
let's go fuck Hraesvelgr.
That's what what my kid would
she's
do.
the one who suggests it. Yeah, and Estinian was like, I'm not a dragon fucker, and the fandom collectively was like, fuck you.
I don't remember this, but I also never really was in the fandom, so...
No, Estinian does not want to have sex with Dragon's Arc. Very
what
real.
A coward.
What a coward. What a coward. Even though they killed his whole family, what a coward. I mean, Svein's out here fucking Garleans, so, I think if anyone was to call him a coward for not fucking the people who killed
We're getting somewhere here. We're getting
that was a really good joke. That was a good joke.
Wee-woo.
That was a good joke. That was a good joke. Wee woo, wee woo. Well, it wasn't literally Xenos. Svein unfucked Gaius because Whirlit was bad. It's okay. Anyways. So we go on this, and I think that the, camping part was fun, too. It was good, because, again, Estinian and Iceheart are not warm characters. Her name's literally Iceheart. Ezale and Estinian are not warm characters. In every... again, literal ice powers.
Final Fantasy is not subtle.
But, Final Fantasy is not subtle. Okay, when I think about Harshiffon, I think about Aymeric, right? Both of them have, a lot of roundness to their designs. They're still pointy because they're Ikemen and they need to be sexy, and angles are sexy. But, Aymeric, he has, his pauldrons are, rounded, his hair is, swooshy, Harshiffon as well. His hair is rounded. He has the round skirt piece. Even if it's default armor, he has the round knee pads and the armor. He's shaped like a friend. Him and Aymeric are shaped like friends. Harshiffon more so, but they're both shaped like friends. Estinian and Ezale are not. They both have these very sleek designs with lots of sharp points and triangles and things like that. And so in every respect, and both of them are Estinian has this sort of sallow, almost yellowish skin, which happens from not being in the sun too much, and then he's always wearing the armor. His face is always covered, and so we can't see him be very expressive until it's a really intense expression. He has a very not open design. You could see his fat
lips, which they got rid of.
Yes, his
Yeah.
Yeah, Nidhogg absorbed his fillers. But Harshifon's pretty light skin, but he has a very vibrant skin color, and so does Aymeric. Both of them have they look like they've been in the sun.
Which is kind of impressive.
They're very bright. Estinian's desaturated.
This is
Estinian and Iceheart.
A visual device. It's a visual device to
character
show you that
design,
this character, he might not get out too much. He might be in an unhealthy lifestyle, which you realize, of course, he is because he's obsessed with killing dragons and is a dragoon.
Yeah. I think Estinian's mental health is really interesting to me. Estinian, it pisses me off because he's so short of being a good character for me. Whereas Aymeric, there was never any hope in the first place. And that's why Estinian stings a bit more, and that's why I get more passionate about him.
This is the line, the mediocrity line. The line between mediocrity and absolutely
greatness,
unredeemable horribleness.
And this also this will show me and Lee's taste, because Lee likes Estinian and I don't. But I understand why Lee likes him, and I respect it.
Much as a character in Heavensward, because he kind of super wasn't one. He's kind of one, almost to the extent that Aymeric is one, you know what I mean?
I would say he's a character and then he stops being a character.
He is one, he's most a character when you go to the Eyrie. And he's most a character on, the road trip with the camping and stuff. That's where he's actually most
and that's
a character,
where we are.
And then he, isn't one after that.
Very, very briefly back to character design. Ezale also, she's really pale, right?
She's not only is she super pale, she's got
everyone
lipstick on.
Yeah, everyone draws her looking like this This is a little gripe I have with the fandom, but it's like really petty, where like everyone draws her like just looking like a normal cute girl, like they make her look like Hilda or like Y'shtola, like just a cute anime girl. But like no, Izael has like she's very unique looking.
I remember like thinking
she looks like
Shiva. When I first saw her, I was like, oh, you know what I mean? Because like she's got like when I saw her, I was like, girl, stop doing your makeup like that.
No, I think she's beautiful.
I
in, like, an
I agree.
inhuman
Like
way,
she's got like light
borderline
eyelashes,
monster
she's got
girl.
freaking light blue lipstick on, and her skin tone, like she's like
She
blue.
looks like an alien, right?
Like she's literally like blue all over.
Yeah, she's blue. She blue. I love a blue woman. But like Hilda, I don't like Lucia's like look, but like Hilda and Lucia are like, you know, they're like Lucia's for like the people who are into like, you know, Amazoness, and then like her design is like an Amazoness character. Let's be real, like the hair over one eye that's like short and the little like
I think
tiara,
she's for lesbians.
Like, that's very Amazoness.
I don't care if she's got a crush on him, right? She's for lesbians.
She's a big one. Okay. I'll take that. I think the cutest girl in Heavensward is Hilda. But Hilda, I'm not, obviously, like, anyone can like her. I know a lot of lesbians who love her, but Hilda feels like, of the girls in Heavensward, she feels the most designed for men.
Really?
In my opinion. But she doesn't feel designed for men the same way
100%.
Minfilia did, or Ida did. Like, but I feel like for men, she would appeal, like straight men, she appeals the most. For me as a gay man, she appeals the most, but that's
I like
because she's
her,
a
but
woman
in
with
the
a gun
sense
and a
that like I would
bandana,
rather
so.
be her. Yeah.
Oh yeah, she's super cool. But like, I think she's like the most traditionally attractive,
yeah.
is what I'm saying. Like most conventionally attractive.
I want to be
she's
like
hot.
a hot girl with a gun.
She wears like the long boots. She's a hot girl with a gun, and like she's got the ponytail. You know, she's like this cool like gangster woman. Like she's got this unique hairstyle. I don't know. She's cute. She's cute. Oh my god! And she has like a flirty back and forth with both you and Thancred, which I thought was fun.
Like the funniest thing is when people told me
she's
like,
flirty
NPCs were flirting with you at certain points in time, and I was like, they were.
She has some flirty dialogue with the wolf. I can't remember specifically, but I didn't feel it the first time, but the second time I was like, is she hitting on me? Yo. But it was like, it didn't feel like nasty. Like it didn't feel like desperate. Like it felt playful, and I really liked it. But anyways,
I always assumed that that because my wolf was like very like frumpy looking and nerdy at this time, and also didn't think of him as a character, so I was like every time someone told me like, oh, this NPC was flirting with the wolf at this point, like Ameryk's dinner during patches, I was like, what? He was?
Okay, that was like egregious. Like the Hilda thing, I can forgive you for missing. The Ameryk thing, you are as dense as the wolf.
Like I knew that, so it's okay.
But yeah, like I don't think Izael, like Lucia and Hilda feel designed for the player base in mind. Izael feels like she was designed for herself, and like she has sexy things about her. But the thing is like, and I think this is really interesting. Because we can tie this back to the Eden raids, but like she has like skin peaks, but you almost can't tell they're skin peaks because her skin is gray. And it's the same thing where like when I played Eden's, so in Eden, there is a trial with like a character becomes a primal. Spoilers for Eden. I guess it's fine to put spoilers because everyone fucking knows at this point. We said we were only spoiler warning for Bazia, but Reen, who's like a 14 to 16-year-old girl, she becomes a primal, and it has like different forms, and she's pretty scantily clad in all of them, and it makes me quite uncomfortable. I will say right here, it makes me kind of uncomfortable, but like because I don't feel comfortable with a child character.
She's kind of like skin. For one of them, she's kind of dressed like an ice skater, which I like. We dress like 15-year-old ice skaters and stuff like that too. So I'm like, eh.
Well, yeah,
I'm like, eh.
I still don't like it. Like in real life. But I have a point. Like I don't actually mind her final form like too much. I kind of wish that the fabric went over her stomach, but like beyond that, like I don't think it's awful because she looks like a
that's
carrot,
the one
right?
Actually. That's the one where I'm like,
so I don't mind it
like an
that.
Ice skater. I dated an ice skater once, as you know.
The EX, the last one?
Oh no.
She's just wearing like
the sorry.
No, that's like
the one where she merged with Race Flower. That's the one where everyone calls it the FBI open up cutscene.
Yeah. I don't feel that way because it felt like a magical
but she's
girl
like also like not
transformation.
wearing anything.
Like it was still uncomfortable. I think the worst one
that's
is
the one I
actually
was
her
talking
Hydaelyn
about. The
outfit,
Hydaelyn one
it's
is
this,
like the
skin tight
one,
thing.
so that's why. But maybe it's just because I have like
No,
I have experience because I said earlier, but I dated an ice dancer once, and her outfits look like that.
Oh yeah. I don't like it because it's like it's got this like long window like going down from her like chest to like her crotch, and the thing is like it's like skin tight, but the thing is like her skin color, it's like her normal normal human flesh tone, right? And then she's wearing like this white thing, so it feels like it shows a lot more skin than her Shiva one, where she has blue skin as Shiva, and then her outfit is blue, right? And even though like they show an equal amount of skin, like an equal amount of like cleavage, like I would say the Hydaelyn one is still worse because it has like the crotch window, but like the Shiva one is still like she's wearing like, thigh highs, and like you can see like there's like a cut for like her belly or something, like you know it's still like shows a lot of skin, but in my brain I don't process it as skin because like it's blue, so I'm like, oh, that's all fabric, even though it's your skin. And Ezil kind of has this effect too, where she has like an under boob window and like a thigh peak, but I always process those as like an undershirt in her pants.
That boob window and the thigh peak,
it's very strange.
Those gear pieces are not unique. They're player gear pieces, so they're on the regular.
Yeah, they're player gear pieces. So it looks a lot like I've put that gear on my wool, and he looks like really sexy in it, and I'm like, oh dear, because he has flesh tone, and so I registered that as he's showing skin, but like. I don't know, like, I know that's such a strange tangent to go off on, but what I'm getting at is Ezil feels like she was designed with only herself in mind. Like, even if she has these, like, skin peaks, right? Like, even if, like, maybe that's supposed to be for sex appeal, there's never this moment where I feel like she was, like, designed to pander to any kind of player. Like, this design feels like it existed for herself and only herself, whereas, like, Aymeric or Xenos or Hilda or like Lise or any characters going like there's a lot of characters going forward where I'm like, no, these were designed with the player in mind.
That's
like,
funny because
to appeal to the player somehow.
I almost disagree with Hilda because she's dressed, you know, not very notably for Final Fantasy. She's not.
Well, I don't.
Which is a little bit.
For me, it's more like her face.
But
her face. She's very
really
attractive.
She's
because, very attractive.
Like, almost every single like female character in Final Fantasy is wearing like shorts with thigh highs.
Yeah, I understand. I understand because like she's all covered up, and so she doesn't feel like as like sex bait as some characters do. But like she has this like unreasonably, I don't want to say unreasonably because like obviously anime characters are going to be cute. She's an anime, well, not anime characters. Final Fantasy characters are going to be good looking. But like I would say of the female cast, she's again the most conventionally attractive. So for the straight men, she was like the biggest. Her and Yugiri were like the big fan service points. But like Yugiri's also super modest. But like they were the like when I look at like. When I look at NSFW art that was produced at the time, like all of it is of those two. I guess that's why
I don't have this context. I don't look at that. At least throwing you under the bus.
I'm an NSFW artist. I'm a porn artist, so I like looking at these trends.
No way!
Whoa! No way. You were. It's so funny because somebody was talking to me about somebody who we both know. Somebody who we both know. Not naming any names, but somebody was talking to me about drawing porn of her characters. Like possibly commissioning me for it. Somebody was talking to me about it just last night. Somebody that's not just last night, just yesterday after watching a video essay with me.
I don't know who that could be.
Somebody was talking about it. I wonder who. No, I wonder who.
No
Chinese
idea.
lesbian.
Doesn't ring any bells.
But anyways, like I wouldn't say they're like bait, but like you know, like Hilda's again. She, in terms of like fan service to straight men, that's the most they get. Whereas again, because Ezil, don't take this as me being like mean to Ezil, but like, because I don't want to call Ezil ugly, because I don't think she's ugly. I think she's really pretty, but like, she's not hot. She's not designed to be hot the way that Lucia and Hilda are. I would even say, like, Fordola and Yotzi are designed to be hot. Like, Lisa's designed to be hot. But, like, I don't think Ezil is. Ezil is entirely in service of herself. And she's one of the rare characters who is. Because I would say a lot of the male cast is also, like, Hien, Xenos, people say Emmett Selk was designed to not be hot, but he's relatively conventionally attractive. The only unconventional thing about him is like the eye bags, the lipstick, the nose shape, maybe. But he's got very conventionally attractive like face proportions, very symmetrical face. Like no, he was designed to be attractive. But like that's a fucking lie.
What, Emmett Sock?
That he wasn't designed to be attractive. That's
I thought
a fucking
it was funny because there was an interview with Ishikawa
that's a lie.
where she was like really surprised. Everyone thought he was like super mega handsome. Because I saw his character art.
Yeah,
I
think she's lying.
It's kind of obvious,
I think she's
he
lying.
Doesn't look very mega handsome in his like first few images. You know what I mean? He looks kind of like, evil.
I will say, I did get catfished by the fandom. Where everyone does draw him hotter than he is in game. But he's not like ugly in game. Like, I will call him ugly later on. But I don't think, and I'm gonna like play this clip in like slow motion. But I don't think he's ugly, like in game. No, it's gonna be like a slow motion. I don't
like really,
think he's
really deep,
ugly
like,
in game.
I don't think he's ugly.
Like, yeah. But like it's gonna be when I call him ugly, like all throughout Shadowbringers. We can do an I call Emmett ugly counter for the Shadowbringers.
This one's the horror counter.
But no, this one's the horror counter. Last week was submissive and breedable. I wonder what's gonna be next week. Next week is gonna be
probably.
the I hate Xenos
No,
counter.
it's just gonna be the counter of how many times you say Xenos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Xenos! Like exactly
No, like every single time anyone says Xenos.
Oh, Christ. That's, okay. Drinking game.
How to make yourself dead.
That's gonna like make me try to avoid saying I'm gonna be like the Prince of Garlemald, the heir of Garlemald, the Viceroy of Alamigo. Like I'm gonna anyways, talking about editing the podcast on the podcast. I might cut this out for brevity later on. Maybe. It is funny though. Because I kind of don't. I want the audience to be surprised, so I'm letting myself know I need to cut it here. This is a very editing heavy episode, and we're not. Oh God, we're so early in the story. It's fine. It's fine. We can go on for a while. But like, because I think there's more to say about this part. I think there's a lot less to say about the back end of Heavensward. The first third is where all the good stuff is. And the camping trip like really softens these edgy characters. And this also contributes to why I thought Aymeric might be a bad guy, because we spend so much time away from him and significantly Ishgard. And in spending that time away from him, I was like, oh, we're gonna get back, and Americ's like done something to the Fourtomps, who are like they spend the early game endearing us to the Fourtomps. And then they spend the rest of that like endearing us to these edgy boys, using Alphino and then later the Mughals as like a conduit to like get us like soft, because like Izael's not as like soft with Alphino, but like her liking Mughals, that's so cute, and that's like a thing you can miss. It's optional. But like it is optional, but it's not just that she thinks they're cute. Like, it's also a disarming, because the Mughals are also familiar. They also are from ARR. They're also just a thing that exists in Final Fantasy. Their quests are silly. I know that you said the fandom they really hated them, yeah. But in terms of like narrative, but like, they're still disarming. Like, the Mughals are disarming. I would say even the like Vath and Ravana are disarming, because again, these are really familiar things. Like, Beast Tribes familiar, Mughals familiar, Alphino familiar. Once again, we're being lulled into a false sense of security. But this time, there's the tension of knowing that there's something unfamiliar on the horizon. So it's familiarizing us with the foreign thing, like the thing that's foreign to us, the audience, Izael, because she was the foreign thing in the Artoirel questline. And once again, we are becoming secure by being surrounded by things we're familiar with. Things that aren't
an intentional familiarization like mechanic, because for me it was like they need 2 panels in the expansion, here's one of them. Like me just seeing the meta reason and being unable to take it seriously as like a literary device. I'm so sorry, Noah.
It's fine. I think Bismarck was for familiarity the first time, and then the second time, that's where the story starts to fall apart. So I'll talk about that when we get there. But Ravana was super familiar. Like, there was a familiarity, there was a comfort there. If you've done the Dragoon quest line, there's like a double sort of thing for me, where I played for the first time as a Dragoon, and Folks, who's the Lancer questline guy, I thought about him when I saw Ravana, because before Xenos, there was Ravana, and before Ravana, there was Folks, as in guy who really wants to fight you and is super enthusiastic about it. I love any character who's like that, by the way. And so he was like fun, and the thing is you get this like moment with Izael, because she turns into Shiva, she tries to fight it, because you are the only two who can like really contend against the primals, and I thought that moment was like actually really intimate, because that's where you like realize like, no, she's just like you. And that's when I like returned to the Shiva fight. I listened to the lyrics of Oblivion. You know, she does the suicide ideation. She talks about how like Hydaelyn
God
won't
won't
let her
let me
die. And I
die.
thought like, oh my god, she's yeah, like it was really painful. But like Izael settle, like especially after the Ravana fight, Izael starts being like much more casual with you and much more comfortable with you, and she opens up to you. And I thought that was like really, really sweet. That was really tender for me, because it's like, this is the first of all, she's from Dravenia. Like as a child, like what was it? She almost like died in Dravenia, right? And like that's where she got like the visions. So this is like her homeland too. Like we are in our homeland. It's this wonderful arc for Izael where we become familiar with her. And so I thought we were gonna get like a nice little another arc for Estinian, because like I knew that I had extra stuff because of the Dragoon questline, so I was like, oh, we're gonna get another arc for Estinian. We do like way later, but like in Heavensward, not really a good one. But it was great for opening up Izael's character, and I was like, okay, so her character arc is gonna take off from here. We got that like cutscene of us by the campfire with Alphino, Estinian, and Izael. That was one of my favorite parts of the whole story. I think a lot of people yeah, everyone loves that part. Everyone remembers that part because that part is in the midst of adversity. That part is so warm. I think it's one of the warmest parts of all of Heavensward, even over the triumphant parts, because you're just enjoying stew with a couple of people who were enemies a couple days ago. It's very tender. There's no animosity. There's no biting sarcasm. Everyone's very like open with each other. Alphino, of course, is this earnest, wonderful child, and he speaks, and that causes Estinian and Izael both to open up a little bit, and everyone's just it's just tender. And like the scene, it slow pans from the ground to the sky into the stars, following the trail of smoke, and I thought like that's such a like classic
the vault music just
like movie image.
Here we go, guys.
Oh no. We're not even there yet. We still have to do, what is it, Somal? Yeah. We go talk to Vidnofir at Annex Shrine the next day. Oh god, that was such a... It's cliche. But I'm saying it's cliche in a good way. That shot. I'm thinking of that shot. I'm so sorry. Like, that shot is used in almost every movie, film, whatever, that, like, everyone goes on an adventure. Like, I immediately think of, like, JoJo Part 3, because they do a lot of sitting around the campfire, and they have that shot. But they have that shot in, like, any, like, band of merry adventurers go somewhere. I'm pretty sure that shot was in the fucking Lord of the Rings movies, you know? Like... Yeah, it's just such a classic shot. It was really beautiful. Also, I would say that the Dravenian, the Forelands are really beautiful because, again, if you do it in my recommended order, you go from Korthus, which is this icy wasteland, to this, like, I like that it's lush, but it's not lush the same way the Sea of Clouds is. It's uniquely lush because it uses a lot of, like, browns. And I know, like, a lot of people are like, oh, the browns in Bosnia are ugly, but the browns in Dravenia are warm and familiar. Or like
I
the
found it
sun
interesting
is
too
warm
that they
in
chose not to make
Dravenia.
every single zone like icy and terrible. That means it's really just Korthus.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that. It makes me happy. And then like you go to Tailfeather. Tailfeather is this quaint little village that these like hunters and traders have like not traded. They've carved out a little piece of the world for themselves. And
I remember
really
being like,
that.
how do these guys live here when there's dragons?
Like, it's just. it was all very soft for me, and then you go to Enix Shrine and you have the
her little
there.
babies.
You have Vidnofir, you have her like her siblings. Yeah, you have her like siblings and like her babies, and it's like they also have carved out a little piece of the world for themselves. And because Izael has like opened up as a sympathetic character, we're more receptive to her ideology at this point. And then Vidnofir is like very kind and helpful, and so all of it, it's like it makes an anxiety began to build in my gut that Hraesvelgr would not be what I wanted him to be. I was pleasantly surprised that he was what I wanted him to be. Not warm. I didn't want him to be warm, but I was scared he was going. I was scared we were being lulled into a trap somehow. I was, not by Izael, but that Izael would be betrayed.
She kind of was, but he was like, "My wife's not your
king,"
and she was like, "Oh God."
Yeah, it's different. So we go to the Churning Mist, we do the Moogle stuff, because the Churning Mist is after the Forelands. The Forelands are first, then it's the Churning Mist. We do the Moogle stuff. That disarms us further. Then we finally, but the Churning Mist, it's a little bit like the Sea of Clouds, in that it's a bunch of floating rocks. So there is that visual familiarity, but it's a lot darker. Like, the Moogle area is really cute. There's a lot of grass, there's a lot of flowers, and that's where you start out. There's, like, the cute Moogle palms, there's all the fluffy stuff. And then the rest of it is fucking terrifying because you have the Eyrie, which is, you can see it in the distance. It's surrounded by like for this podcast I flew through all the Heavensward zones.
There's
so that I could talk with the visuals.
In that zone that is suggested to be a place where Ratatoskr was first betrayed by humanity, because it's like an amphitheater.
Ooh.
And there's like lots of huge crystals there, and it's said that crystals form at the site where like a lot of life was lost, and a dragon is quite a big life. So that's probably where she was killed.
Yes. And so you can see like the Eyrie in the distance, and the Eyrie, I love it, by the way, when they include like the outside of dungeons in zones. I love it. They don't do it with every zone, but they do it with a lot of them.
Is that in these
or
zones,
not with every
the
dungeon.
remnants of the human and dragon society, which is really like, it's poignant because you've been seeing so much death and destruction in the name of this like many like century-long dragon war, and it's like, it almost feels senseless when you see that, that there was a thriving society before that, and then it makes you wonder, like, what happened, what went wrong. At this point, you don't know the true story of what happened to the dragons.
We're actually, like, praising Heavensward
I also
a lot
am
more
kind
than
of
I
surprised
thought we
because,
would be.
one, I don't remember all of these either, but now when you talk about them, it's coming back. I'm just like, oh, yeah. I do remember that, and like, oh yeah, that was cool.
It's just so genius that like you can see the Eyrie from like the Mughal area, and it's so frightening. It's so ominous in the distance, and it's like, oh god, are we gonna have to go there? But we go the other way, and we go to Reisvilger, and it's pretty much after this that the story starts to fall
I actually agree with you. I was thinking, I was like, the parts that I like about Heavensward are all the parts that you said were good.
Yeah, and the parts that most people talk about when they talk about our Heavensward is the parts that I'm talking about now.
I don't even really remember the other parts. This is me,
trip.
even like, I liked Azizlaz's Zone, but I don't really remember it.
I also liked Azizlaz's Zone. I like go back there.
I go back there to level Blue Mage.
I have a very unique story about Azizla, but I'll get there later. God. So you go to Reisvilger, and the cutscene is beautiful. The cutscene is fucking beautiful. They use a Dutch angle, which 14 does not use a lot of Dutch angles, I've noticed. Very rare they do, but they do use a Dutch angle here, and it sticks out in my mind. When Izael's like... So Reisvilger reveals to us that the first of all reveals to us the betrayal of the humans. He tells us about all that. Or not
it counts as humans because like, how dragons, we're all humans. Yeah.
Mortals. So he talks a bit about Midgardstormer, and then he talks about I can't believe I didn't talk about Midgardstormer this
because
whole time.
He was pretty much
we didn't even talk about.
He was like set up. Sorry, Mr. Midgardstormer.
Sorry. Oh, well, I will say Midgardstormer like took our light blessing.
Here's
like,
another
through
like
line in all of Heavensward.
In the huge like cocktail of Heavensward plot points. There were a lot of like things that kind of felt unrelated. This is one of them.
Yeah, because Heavensward, the biggest problem is that it's unfocused. Like, a lot of people complain that Stormblood wasn't focused, but Stormblood had one consistent theme and one consistent enemy. Heavensward was unfocused in terms of like
in terms of themes, like first you lose your power as the warrior of light. It's like, okay, like what am I gonna do to get this back? I don't know. Let's go fight dragons. And then you go fight dragons, and then Izael comes up, and it's like, oh, okay, like actually fighting dragons is bad. And then it's like, okay, and then Haurchefant dies. Sorry, we're not even there yet, but Haurchefant dies, and you're just like, I'm gonna go kill Haurchefant's killers, and you're like, everyone's like, yeah, and it's like, but first we gotta go deal with the Vanu. And so you're like, okay, and then Bismarck shows up, and then they're like, we're gonna go to Azizla, and you're like, where's that? There's just a lot of things that...
And then, like, the Garlean... hate that the Garlean show up so much, but I'll get to that.
There's just
That's
a
the
lot
part
of
that makes me like the angriest.
That don't make that much sense. Like, here I am critiquing too, and I said I liked it.
Well, I think it's good, because it shows, like, we wouldn't critique something so thoroughly if we didn't love it.
Yeah.
You know? And if we didn't love art.
I think despite this, my consensus is that Heavensward was good, and despite that, I guess your consensus is that it was bad. Yeah.
I think it was bad. If it was just early, like, if it maintained the quality of early Heavensward, it would be like a 7 out of 10. I still don't think early Heavensward was as strong as Stormblood or Shadowbringers, but it would be like 5 points higher, so or more accurately 50 points higher, because when I say 7 out of 10 it's more like 70 out of 100. Take it that way. But anyways, so Hraesvelgr reveals to us the betrayal of man, which was that man and they were at war. They were at war, and then Shiva and his love brought them to peace because they loved each other. They were so moved, right? And then the betrayal of man happened. Where the OG King Thordan
he basically lured in Ratatoskr and then killed her, and everyone had like a nice meal of her eyes.
What happened with Tiamat? What happened with Tiamat?
Bahamut's, she wasn't really.
Right. Okay, yeah. She was that was the Alligans. My bad. So they snacked on her eyes, and they were super fucked up.
Great synopsis.
And
something that I find interesting is that
it was super fucked up,
and quest or something, it Nidhogg gets a little more characterization actually. I
thought that was super neat.
He's kind of you don't really understand his motives. You just know that he's mad about Ratatoskr. It's compelling enough. It was already enough. And then in the
bro, someone kills your sister, I'd be pissed.
For him, it was yesterday, but
that was his mate. I
don't think it was his mate. I think that was just his sister. I'm not sure.
Well, no, because the first... I'm so sorry. The first brood are all related, but they also mate with each other.
But, what else? It was I don't remember if they were... I don't know if they were mates, but I just remember that Nidhogg got some extra characterization in the 80 quests, because it's he wasn't angry before. He was just he was stern and just, basically. He ruled it was the joint dragon human society. He watched over it, which I thought was really interesting because it gave more context. He actually he gave something for for man, and then after that they took his sister from him.
Yeah, that's
because
he
was on he was on their side. It wasn't that he was neutral. He was literally on their side.
And it makes me upset because I wish that Nidhogg got that characterization in Heavensward, because
it would be really interesting, because on top of that there was all that all the ancient ruins of the ancient society where dragons and humans lived together in harmony, and to know that Nidhogg was a part of that, and willingly.
And so this is a world-shattering event for Ezil. This is where they use the Dutch angle. It was really good. Estinian has a complete non-reaction. He was like, oh, that's fucked up. I'm still gonna kill Nidhogg.
Heavensward is a story about the futility of revenge.
That is a realistic trauma response. Do not get me wrong, it's a realistic trauma response. But it was framed with no fanfare. Ezil is having this breakdown that is cinematically framed with the Dutch angle and the slow panning shot and the music, and then Estinian just says and it's a flat.
I'm happy for him.
A shot reverse shot. It's so bad. No, it was funny, bad.
The thing is,
it was bad.
No, it's
what they should have done. It was unintentionally they were trying to make it serious. What I think they were trying to do was that Estinian was stern and unmoving, but it just ended up looking like a fucking scene from The Office.
Estinian looks
in the middle of my dramatic religious drama. Anyway. Yeah, that's literally what happened. That's literally and then we get Alpha and he's like, oh god, Ezil, no, and Ezil's like, I need a moment. And you get out of cutscene and you're on that bridge. And the interesting thing that that bridge where you meet him, it's it's slightly at an angle. And I thought that was cool too. So it kind of almost feels like the Dutch angle again. You go talk to Ezil. You I talked to all the NPCs. And Alpha was like, oh god, this sucks. And, of course. And, that was fine. I'm not, saying this is, bad. And Ezil's, she's doing, a custom, crying animation. It's not even, the normal female Ellison, despair animation. She's doing, a custom, she's so defeated. Her shoulders are slumped. The body language is great. The character acting was great. Whoever animated that, mwah, good for you. You're probably not listening to this, but, mwah. Also, fun fact, the lead character animator on Final Fantasy said that his favorite character is Xenos. I think about that every fucking day.
I'm gonna penalize every time you bring up Xenos in a non-Xenos related conversation.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And so Estinian's just like standing there. You talk to him, and he's like, oh, are you gonna come to the area with me or not?
It's so funny.
Like, it's so funny, and I wish they did it more
makes sense for his
dramatically.
character to treat her that way.
Like, they didn't have to change anything that happened. They just didn't have to frame it so stupidly. And so Estinian and you go into you go talk to Sid, and he gives you like the dinky little airship thing, and then you go to the Aerie, and the Aerie it's spooky. I like it. You like go to the Aerie. That part was spooky.
Like on shuffle.
I was pretty
incredibly good.
Oh, I love that. So you go into the Aerie, and the Aerie is a good dungeon. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. It's scary. Like, I like it. It's frightening. I like that there's like the sleeping dragons.
You can actually wake them up, and then you have to not only slaughter them, but all their sleeping children.
Yes, it was good. Like, the Aerie was a good dungeon. I think that was one of the few, like, that was also like a good like game design thing. The like sleeping dragon thing, because like
you're
going into these people's
home, live there,
right? Like, this is where they live. Like, you're doing to them what
exactly.
happened to Estinian.
This is why I brought up earlier. This is
and it really does the whole like
Heavensward is a very typical Japanese story of how revenge corrupts you. Of how revenge doesn't make you happy.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, this isn't obviously like an exclusively Japanese topic, but a lot of like JRPGs will like note upon this that like revenge is like, you know, it doesn't make anyone happy, it just makes the world worse. You're right, exactly. It's cyclicism.
It's just cyclicism again, right? Like we talked about in the first podcast. Mm-hmm. Cyclicism is very big in Eastern media. And so even though Heavensward is aesthetically very Western, I would say think about thematically,
it, like,
it's very, very Japanese.
Which we're not bringing up is like, you know, it's the androids exacting revenge upon the machines. But the machines, you know, are now like, you know, they've gained personhood. And now the machines, when you kill one of them, they start like freaking out because they've gained personhood. They know what it's like to feel lost. So now they come after you with like renewed like anger and fury. And it's like, like violence begets violence, that sort of stuff. And I like this theme. I like that theme.
Let us know in the comments if you. I do like that theme. Let us know in the comments if you. Unironically, let us know in the comments if you want us to do a episode on Nier. At some point.
But we'll fuck it up and then talk about Beastars or something again.
Oh god, yeah. But if you actually if you want us to do, I'm not even joking, if you want us to do an episode about Beastars or about Nier Automata, you guys can let us know in the comments. And oh god, no you don't. We'll do a short episode. We'll do a like 1 hour episode for Beastars. But because after Endwalker is out, we're going to do the Endwalker podcast where we just talk on Endwalker briefly. But then after that, we're probably not going to talk about Final Fantasy we don't know if we're planning on continuing the podcast. So I have a lot of fun with it. But anyways, so you do the Aerie, and I think the Aerie was a good dungeon. Like, I know this is where I say that the story starts to drop the ball, but it was only dropping the ball in presentation at this point. Like, the presentation got really flat for the kind of drama it was trying to show. And it kind of picked up again because you get to Nidhogg, right? And Estinian's like you get to Nidhogg's the final boss of the Aerie. You get to the final boss of the Aerie. It's Nidhogg. First of all, that's how I knew Nidhogg, like, we weren't going to kill him here because it wasn't a trial. Yeah. I'm like, there's no fucking way. There's no fucking way he's not going to be a trial. So I was like, okay. And so Estinian is like haggard. He's out of breath. He has the eye. Like, you know, Nidhogg like fucked him up. I thought that was cool as shit. Because we'd never have to do something like that. And I guess we had to protect the one like little like what is it, kobold in the beast tribe, or not the beast tribes, in Brayflox. But like Estinian, we had to like protect him. Like, you legit had to protect him. If your eye level wasn't good, then he could die. And my eye level was fucking awful. And so were all of my co-players. We were all Sprouts. It was an all Sprout party.
It's so funny.
So it wasn't good.
So
it wasn't good.
Benediction is he gains like so much.
Oh
HP.
My god. I've never done that trial as a healer, so I didn't know that happens.
I always give him a fat Bene.
Okay. What? Good for him. I'm sure he appreciates it, but he's all like haggard, he's like out of breath, he's like tired. And this is a good place to point out. Estinian. Okay. While Amaric and like Minfilia like praise the wool and flirt with the wool, I think Estinian and Izael are written more romantically across from the wool. And of course, this is my read, but they're both shown. like, Izael, she had all those romantic moments in the hinterlands with you, right? Or forelands. And a lot of people, I'm gonna be real, a lot of people in this fandom don't really read.
A lot of people
like,
in
I
this
know
fandom
Izael
don't
Wool
really
is a popular
read
ship now, but when I...
2021.
Well, yes. That's the thesis of this podcast. Yeah. Anytime we talk about fandom. But, like, Wool Izael was not a very popular ship when I joined the fandom. I joined the fandom right really after Shadowbringers came out, and I assumed that it... Yeah, like, both with the... And this is why I say she's... Like, Izael's not super popular with, like, straight men, because, like, Yugiri Wool and Lys Wool were really popular with, like, straight men. And they always have been. So... And Minfilia Wool actually is, too. That's why they're so much... There's a lot of porn of them, but there's a lot of, like, shippy art of them with, like, straight men's wools as well. It's just straight men... A lot of straight men, like, either make female wools, or they, you know, they just, like, ship them with, like, random, like, cat girls. They just draw their wools like fucking random cat girls and stuff, that are just around Ul'dah. Good for them. Like, no shade. Good for you. But, like, when they give us all the random men in Charlian and Garlemald, you know I'm gonna be on the same shit. But, like, I don't want to say shipping is, like, a woman thing, or I don't want to say it's, like, a queer people and women thing. I don't want to say that necessarily, but I do think that area of fandom historically has always been considered, like, the realm of queer people, and then, like, women, right? Be they queer or non-queer women, because you can be a woman and not be queer, but it's always been generally the realm of women, like fan fiction and stuff like that. And I think that, like, now we have, like, more, and I'm not saying there weren't, like, WLW in the fandom. Obviously, like, Lee's been playing this game, like, way longer than I have, but I think there wasn't, like, a loud WLW voice. And, like, Lee's, like, main wool is, like, a male character. Like, there weren't a lot of WLW wools outside of, like, you know, straight men's, like, Yuri characters. I don't like, know. There wasn't a huge... know anyone. And now there's, like, a more vocal...
Like, I just straight up didn't know anyone. But the thing is, I didn't know that many people to begin with, so there is that. My very small sample size.
Small sample size, right? But... Like, finding, like, I don't want to call it, like, Yuri, because there was a lot of, like, Yuri. I'm gonna use Yuri to mean the fetishistic stuff, but I do like Yuri. Like, you know, and if you like Yuri, that doesn't mean you're, like, a gross fetishizer. But, like, I'm using Yuri to mean, like, the fetishistic stuff made by straight men for the time being. That's how I'm using it. But, like, the fem/, like, that stuff... The more, like, lesbian content made by lesbians, like, really, it's kind of a recent phenomena, like, the last year. I'm not saying it didn't exist before then, I'm not saying, like, you didn't exist before then if you're somebody who's listening who does that kind of thing, but it wasn't as common, and I still think it's, like, significantly less common than, like, male and then male-female stuff, which, I mean, that's just, like, a thing with fandom, right? But Wool Izael is the big, like, female-female ship in the fandom, I would say, like, especially now. And I understand why, but if we're just talking, like, in a raw way, because, like, my Wool is a gay man, and I do not ship him with Estinian. However, I think, again, Estinian and Izael are written incredibly romantically across from the Wool, and it's kind of a shame that people don't read it that way. These aren't, like, popular readings. Like, even Estinian Wool, like, the way people ship it, I don't think is the way that it's presented. Where people, like, ship it in, like, a funny, smarmy way, which is fine. Like, almost like a Sid Nero. But I don't think it's like Sid Nero. I think that the romance of... And I would say almost, like, even... Like, I don't like Estinian Izael. I'm saying that now. But I understand why people like it. Like, some people write it as, like, the tsundere heterosexual couple back and forth, which I think goes very starkly against their character development. But the thing is, like, all three of you have this relatability of trauma. Like, and I think that's... the way it's presented, especially between you with these, not with each other. Like, with each other, it's just banter, Estinian Izael, but with the Wool, it's very romantic. And Estinian's big romantic scene, I would say, like, the one is before, I think it's before, like, Bismarck. It's either before Bismarck or Ravana, where, like, Alphinaud's like, the Wool can handle it,
I like
and
that one.
Estinian's like, are you sure?
Everyone likes that one.
Yeah, and then everyone likes that one. Like, you can't just point the Wool. Nobody points out that right afterwards, Estinian's like, haha, I was just fucking with really Ralph, and of course the Wool can handle it, right? And they looks at the Wool. It was really funny. Nobody points that part out. Like, because then it's, like, debatable as to whether Estinian said it in earnest or if he was just fucking with Alphinaud. I like to read it as he was saying it in earnest, but he had to deflect. But he could also just be fucking with Alphinaud. Nero says it in earnest without any, like hiccup afterwards, and I was like, whoa, right. Nero, you're worried about me?
Whoa, dude, that's, like, kind of, like, whoa, like...
I was like, whoa. My eyes
God,
went, like, really big. Um, come here, Nero. But so you have to protect him, and I like that mechanic a lot. I like protecting your teammates. I am a tank, so
whenever I play tank in there, I always
now,
let one of them snack on him, and I'm just like, oh no, I fucked it up. Sorry, Estinian. Because they spawn really fast. That's when I see run over and smack on him. I'm just like, no.
Because the game did a lot of work to endear you to Estinian at this point, so I was very endeared to him at that point in the story. And so you fight Nidhogg, and then I actually like that Estinian killed Nidhogg in the flesh. I thought that was very thematically. First of all, this is where we first see his face. We get that angle into his mask, and he has this crazy expression.
Yeah, he
while he's,
looks
killing
Nidhogg.
Almost, it kills him.
Also, his lips are fat.
He's deranged.
His lips are fat.
He looks what?
They're huge.
Yes, I really like his old face. I'm sorry, Estinian likers. I like his old face a lot. Very, very nice. It was a Duskwhite face. And then he's actually a Wild
Ishgardian Elizons and Wild Elizons are the same. But Ishgardian Elizons have, they just have a different culture, so they're kind of not considered the same, but apparently, within, the realm of Eorzean, race identification, they're the same.
Well, yeah, it's historically, historically, white people kind of didn't exist. If you were, Irish and you met, a Spaniard, you guys wouldn't consider yourselves the same. But, nowadays people do, because white identity exists.
My favorite thing in regards to
it's almost
there's, this one firmament quest where you've got to, bring, Francel's, dad to Gridania, and he hates it. But he says this thing. He says this thing. He's like, well, I suppose I should give it more credit because these are our cultural brothers. And the funniest thing is that I've heard Japanese people say this exact same thing about Chinese people. Yeah, I'm just like, oh,
that is so funny. But there's a lot of Ishgardian NPCs. I know Izael and then pre-Helmet off Estinian, both Duskwights. But there's quite a few just walking.
Yeah, but
around
they're not actually Duskwights or something. They're more they're just called Ishgardian Elizon, I think.
Well, how I like to see it personally is that the difference between Wildwood and Duskwhite is kind of 100%
agree. I think this is the same for a lot of clans, honestly.
I would say only Mikode and maybe Aura, but they're more animal-like, so it kind of makes sense that for them there's actual differences. But yeah, so Estinian he kills Nidhogg, and I thought that was also a very good scene. I like the shaky cam. I like how fast the shots were cut. I'm getting so specific about the filmic discussion of the cutscenes. Yeah, the cinematography. I'm not putting these on screen for you. I'm so sorry, viewer. I don't know how much I'm willing to edit. If I start editing this earlier in the week, maybe. Anyways, so he has this really deranged expression. It was really good. And I like the scene. I think that this was really narratively compelling. That he kills Nidhogg, the flesh, right? However, Nidhogg's spirit still lingers. Because he can't shake the spirit of vengeance. He's not satisfied.
Estinian. That's why Estinian and Nidhogg eventually gain understanding of each other when they're fusing fused together, and that's why Estinian's lance is now named Nidhogg because he gains a respect for Nidhogg after realizing they kind of went through similar things.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just so it's very on the nose, but I still really like it.
I think it's fine that it's on the nose, honestly.
Yeah. And so that happens, and that's good. And then you go back to Ishgard, as one would expect, to go
and then Aymeric does the dumbest thing in the world.
And Thorn's like... Yeah, so you go back to Ishgard. Well, you go back to Ishgard, and the cultists are fucking attacking Ishgard, and Izael's like... Yeah. Izael's almost comatose. I have to she's in a stupor, and finding out that her cultists are emotionally comatose, not literally. And you're finding out later, guys. She's like, wait, guys, and this is the one Haurchefant Izael interaction we ever get.
Holy crap.
I'm so disappointed. Yep, it makes me so sad because Haurchefant's like, you know what?
Yeah,
she's
and then
okay.
he dies
I like her.
later.
It makes me so sad. Yeah, it makes me so sad. And so she's like, hey, no. she like talks to her like cult guys, and she's like, hey, don't do this. And I would say that the story, again, it's dropping the ball in terms of presentation, but I would still say it's like the story's still pretty good.
And my
like,
favorite
it's
thing
still
is
fun.
that, like, after this, right? After this is when Aymeric runs to, like, talk to his dad. And everyone is so shocked at the sheer stupidity of the action that, like several NPCs comment on how dumb it is. It's so funny to me.
Yeah, I don't remember where we learned, because I feel like we learned Thornton was Aymeric's dad, like, pretty early in the game. And I think that they shouldn't have done that, because that made it even more obvious that Thornton was evil. Mm-hmm. Because he had a bastard, despite being the Pope. Or aesthetically the Pope. I don't know if he was supposed to take a vow of celibacy or not.
Yeah, Hellenic priests are supposed to be celibate.
Okay. Fucked up. Like, I still think the story's okay here, even if the presentation's kind of falling apart. Like, it wasn't falling apart so intense. Like, I wasn't like, oh god. Like, it's just the, like, scene with the Stinian jarred me a little bit, but, like, the post-Aerie scene was good enough that it, like, salvaged it for me. And so I was like, so we go back to Ishgard, she does this. I'm like, oh, really cool. They're, like, keeping the social.
That was another one of the things that Heavensward
like,
kind of had a little bit too much on its plate with the social political stuff. But it was still good at times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
While it was just the dragons and, like, the Hellenic people, like, well, it was just them, it was cool. Yeah. It's like, later on it starts to get fucky. But that part was cool, and then we get the one interaction where, like, Izel's really cute because she, like, stands in front of you and, like, your allies, and she's like vying with, like, her people. She's like, don't do this. It was really cute because she, like, physically put herself in between you and them. I really like that scene. That like, and she has, like, such a sad expression. Her expressions are just nonstop sad from here out. She's just, like, a sad cat for the rest of the expansion.
She freaking dies, which is still sad.
Yes. Sad because it was badly done. Everything good I had to... I laughed.
I knew she was gonna die, though, so, like,
I watched
her
die.
Like, okay.
I feel
and then she, like, did her thing, and I was like, okay.
Well, yeah, because she's been wanting to die. Like, she's a martyr, and she's finally getting what she wants because she's being freed from Hydaelyn's grasp. This expansion is also an expansion that casts Hydaelyn in a fairly dark
kind
light.
Of, like,
we'll talk about that more when we get to the
rest of the game, up until, like, Endwalker, where we still don't have all the answers.
Yeah, I would say that it kind of, like, is in the back of my mind the whole time playing, because every time that you get a crystal back, I, like, think about her, and I think about the fact that she, like, made Minfilia stay behind.
Yeah. And
I was like, Minfilia's fucking dead, right? Like, I'm still like, Minfilia's fucking dead. And every time, like, Izael talks, like, for me, I think of Minfilia. And that makes me feel away. But anyways, so she, like, vies with their people, and then everyone collectively in your allied group is kind of like, church is fucked. Like you talk to Thornton's like, fuck you. And we're like, fuck. And so we have to go find Hilda, and
it's so funny. This is where Hilda's
search her out.
Another one of those things where it's like, why is all this shit happening? It feels very, like, not connected.
I didn't mind it too much, because I was like, oh, okay, so we're getting, like, internal Ishgard stuff. This is, like, at this point, I still thought Aymeric was evil, right? Well, I was like, okay, well, we got the dragon stuff, and now we have to, like, if we meet Hilda, we'll get all the poor people on our side, who are, like, the majority of Ishgardians. Like, that's what I figured. Like, I was still giving the benefit of the doubt. I was still giving, like, with hindsight, I'm like, ugh. But at the time, I was like, okay. So we meet Hilda, and she's cool, and then you fight Cerbert. And that's really important, because that's, like, the first act of, like, open malice from the Holy See against you.
And Cerbert is, like, extremely, like, axe murdery, so that's funnier.
And also, he does this, like, flip. But it wasn't, like, animated.
I remember!
Like, it was like...
God, you need to show this scene on the screen. I'm sorry. The context
I need to show everybody.
He shows up, he's a little mean to you, and then, like, he does this, like, absolutely hilarious, like, T-pose flip, inhumanly, like, 3 stories high, and then lands on a roof.
Yeah, like... like, okay, he does this backflip, but it's like, first of all, he rotates several times in the air. But the most important thing is, like, I imagine they took, like, him at his base, because, you know, when you animate, like, a 3D model, there's, like, the base. So they took him at his base. And they probably just, like, literally rotated him and moved his position. They didn't animate him. Like, they didn't animate his body, like, when you do a flip, your body curves, your, like, stomach, you know, moves in, your legs move in, and then your limbs move out. Like, no, they didn't animate any of that. They just took his, like, straight model.
Which is really, really funny.
It's just so
like,
under animated. Like, maybe they did animate it, but it was just under animated. Like, maybe there was like a bit of it, but like what I'm remembering is that he literally just rotated. I'm gonna put on screen like what this would look like if like I did it in like a 3D program. Like, this is what I imagine they did.
Like, I want you to show this the actual in-game scene though. Oh, okay.
Well, no, I already showed them I already put on screen Cherubert, and then I'm gonna show like what I imagine they did like in the program. Like, I'm gonna record myself using a 3D program just so that they can see. Yes, that was literally, it was so fucking funny. And that also took me out of it, but it wasn't like Heavensward is bad now. Like, no, it was like
Final Fantasy is just kind of like this.
They sure did that.
With like cutscene animations before. They have notably like amped it up since Heavensward. They said they'd done that on purpose too. So
yes,
yeah, exactly. They
that's because Heavensward made them a shit ton of money.
So it's just one of those things. Poor.
Anyways, so. We fucking Lee just said something that I had to cut. We were like discussing we were discussing editing the podcast, and she said whore off cast, and I was like, oh well, that one's not gonna make it into the counter. So she said, so then I said anyways to like reintroduce us into the podcast, and she fucking says whore again. So this is, and now I just said it a bunch of times, so now I have to add a bunch of dings. God damn it. I'm not gonna use dings. Whore. I'm gonna use Thanjit saying whore. That's gonna be the okay. It's okay. It's fine. This is a long episode. That's fine. That's also fine. Anyways, so
you know what else fucking happens? You get Robon's arm back at some point. You get Robon back.
Oh my god!
When did this happen? I just remember all of like the different I just remember all the different plot points.
In the middle of.
I don't remember.
Does that happen before the vault?
Does that really happen in Heavensward? I don't remember how we get to any of them.
Does that happen? Does that happen before the vault or after?
This is very important. The sound okay. While you rescue him started playing.
Okay. I am looking this up as we speak. I am looking this up as we fucking speak. Where is the vault? The vault is literally 57.
It is. I mean, this is why this is what
game.
Like cemented like the stereotype that the level like whatever 7 dungeon is the one where shit goes down, which was true up until Shadowbringers, because that was the level 59 one, or sorry, 79.
Okay. So Raban's shit was fucking level 51. So after you do the quest with the Manalane and Artoirel, where you're like eased into it,
why
you have
do people
to go do the Raban. Oh my god!
Like
Yeah, like in the middle of all of this, where we're not welcome back into Eorzea at this point. We have to go fucking save Raban. That's so fucking funny. I blocked that out of my mind because I wanted Heavensward to be good.
And the thing is, like, I realized I just had to resolve these like threads. Like, as someone who like sometimes writes for creative stuff, I get it. Sometimes you have like a laundry list of things that you really need to get through, but I think that by fulfilling all of them in Heavensward, it kind of ended up a little bit of weaker expansion. Yeah, they could have.
They could have just done it in post Heavensward.
Because like he comes back and he's not.
They could have, and they kind of had like
for the rest of the Heavensward story.
Yeah, like if you like rescued him in like 3.1 and he was all like haggard, right? And then like in 3.3 he's like I've regained my strength. Come fight
Yeah, exactly.
Me in
like he didn't
whatever
need
it
to.
was.
He didn't need to exist.
They could have made it more organic, but they didn't.
Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. So, anyways, we do the vault, and the vault. Everyone's like, "Oh my!" So Amaric's like, "I'm gonna go talk to my dad," and I was like, "Okay, this is it. He's gonna betray us. He's gonna betray us."
It is really
like,
notable that everyone else
is
like
faking
it.
He's gonna betray us.
Get arrested, and you know.
Yeah, I was like, "This idea is too stupid. He's not doing this in earnest. He's gonna betray us." And so we go through the vault, and I have this like sinking feeling in my stomach. Like what I'm expecting is we're gonna get to the end. Again, I'm not mad that they made Amaric a good guy. I'm not mad that it didn't go the way that I wanted it to go. I'm just mad that they went the absolute stupidest way that it possibly could go. And so the vault is a beautiful dungeon.
The design is really good.
Fucking amazing dungeon. So they really amp up the lighting. Like,
it really, like,
yeah, it's
I
a
mean,
beautiful
it's
dungeon.
got,
I go there to
for people
G-pose
who
all
are
the time.
familiar with Western religion, it's got, like, I like calling it Western religion. It's got, like, that, atmosphere. Yeah, it's got the pews. It's got the atmosphere
the
of, like,
pews.
literally, like, going to church, which, you know, everyone knows, everyone who's studied a little bit of art history knows that churches, like, in Europe are designed to be as oppressive, like, high ceilings, sometimes, like, ostentatious art, to, you know, to give you the feeling that this is, like, God's domain. Because for, like, a peasant living in whatever century, a church might be the tallest building you ever set eyes on. And that's like, this is the atmosphere that carries on, that is so well done in the vault, because I really feel you're intruding on, like, sacred ground, or ground that should rather be sacred.
And I think another, like, really notable thing is I'm pretty sure this is the first man-made dungeon in the game that you play linearly.
So, like, you mean, like, story dungeons, right? Like, story dungeons?
There might be optional dungeons.
I'm thinking...
Yeah.
Halatali.
Yeah.
Halatali is there, but that one's optional.
Halatali, okay, there's a few in ARR that are, like, buildings, but they're, like, decrepit.
This is a building that people are using,
like, this is a building people still use.
So...
Yeah,
this is like
well
breaking and entering, which is not something that you do all the time. You do it sometimes.
I would say, and now maybe not everyone's done this, but I would say the vault is a building it looks like a building you could go into today if you've ever been inside, like, a cathedral.
Oh yeah,
like, there are cathedrals in New York that look like the vault. Yeah. But of story dungeons, I think it's the only one. Like, I know there's, like, a few huts in Brayflocks, but huts in a jungle. Yeah, I guess there's Praetorium, but, like, that's, like, again, it's not like a Praetorium and Castrum. Those are military bases, so it's a little different. This is a common building. It's not really a common building
because the clergy is only allowed to use it, but it is sort of like the...
Well, no, it has the pews. The common man is 100% allowed to go in there. Like, it has the pews, so they probably have mass, right? Even if it's for the noblemen, right? Mm-hmm. But, like, it's not, like, restricted to the government. It's a huge building. Come on, Lee. It's a huge building. It has so many floors.
So
it has a garden.
Got a lore guide on the vault. Here it is. I'm gonna look at it. The vault is the seat of the Hellenic Church. Typically closed to the public, with the exception of certain occasions such as Starlight Celebration, or with some special exceptions such as the victims of the Broom Fire who are allowed into the premises. Those allowed in for those occasions, and most of the Hellenic acolytes that frequent the vault at all times are permitted only to visit the lowest levels, centering on St. Dornan's Basilica. That's the place where the pews are. Very few individuals are allowed into the upper reaches. So yeah, you are right and wrong. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. That's very interesting. But the point is,
right,
this is not a place of war.
This is a place of worship.
This is not a place of strife. Because the castrums and praetorium, these are military bases. These are naturally places of war. All the ruins that you explore, the things that attack you aren't people, they're monsters. And the people who attack you are bandits. Of course, bandits make hideouts in warehouses and the like. These people weren't ever meant to fight you. And I love the really use of warm colors so much, because in the lower floors they use a more yellowy orange to light the scene, and it's the lower floors, and with that lore that Lee just so thoughtfully read for us, the sun feels warmer, and it feels cruel
to be breaking and entering into such a space.
Because yes, I felt very unholy because despite not being Catholic, I do have Catholic guilt.
And also you're also, like, presently religious, which is not me. My like biggest context on this is, like, entering, like, the Vatican as a tourist, which is like, well, I mean, I suppose I wouldn't break and enter into the Vatican either, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, but I felt, first of all, like, when you enter that dungeon, the sheer, like, you can see the big window, right, in the back. Like, you can see it from where you enter, because you have to do, like, you have to turn a corner, it's a bit winding, you have to walk through, like, a columned area, but you can see this magnificently large window that casts a light that, like, you know, it colors the whole dungeon. So it's sunset, so the shadows are long, and it feels magnificent, and it makes you feel incredibly small. Just like it's supposed to in real life. And you snake through the hallways, and
Something
you still
else
see
that-
the window. The window is there the whole
Something else that
time.
I noticed that
Like
all the
every
moms
time
in
you
the
make it
dungeon
out.
are like Hellonic X, and those guys are actually like members of the clergy, which I find super interesting.
Yeah, like these people might not
They
actually
absolutely
be
think
evil.
you're
They
evil.
might think you're evil.
There's like a guy. I don't know where he shows up, but he shows up at one point where you can talk to him. And it turns out that he was like Thornton's like someone who worked for Thornton and was like close to him in like a professional manner. And he says straight to your face he doesn't know what to make of you because like you killed Thornton. I find that very interesting.
God, oh god. And so you climb up onto where the priest would give his speech normally. I don't know where not the podium, there's no podium, but like where a priest would normally put his podium, where he would stand, where he would, preach. And you fight him. You fight I don't remember the name of the guy, but you fight one of the 12,
Knights of the Round.
not 12.
I guess
God,
that's not them. That's not them yet, but they do become.
Yeah, the Knights of the Round.
They're
You fight
like the something.
Yeah.
The Heavensward.
Like,
Oh god, we're stupid.
The Heavensward. Oh my fucking god. So you fight one of the ward members, and that big window is still there, and of course the light as it's cast when you come into the dungeon. Okay. You're pretty far away from the window at the start. It's a big window, you still see it. It looms, it's oppressive, but like the light from it, it's fainter in the back, and so it's very like blindingly bright here. And I thought, oh, Heavensward, because it was so bright. But the light is still warm, and significantly, I don't remember which one it is. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna look it up right now because I can't make this point, because I think I remember who it was. It was Sir Adilfel Brightblade, and if I do recall correctly, he was one of the younger members of the ward.
He's the baby face.
Yeah, he literally has the baby face. Yeah. So he's
that's for your citation.
Lee just sent me a lore guide. Yeah, thank you. And so
that's the lore guide.
I'll link it in the description below for anyone who's interested. But yeah, so he's one of the younger ones, and I think that's kind of significant. Like just in a cinematic way. Like if it's something you take note of, you're like, oh, like I thought that was interesting. I thought that was neat. And then you climb up you defeat him. You climb up the stairs.
They don't die.
It's significant also that none of them die.
After.
Like they just kind of like run
away. In which
away.
they do die. Well, according to I guess some people who analyzed it a little closely, they're not sure if they're dead or not. But I don't know.
It was a little anxiety-inducing, though, that they didn't die. I was like, oh no. When he, like, ran away, when he, like, jumped off. And then you go upstairs, you go to the higher floors, and when you phase into the next area, because, there's 3 segmented areas, the light is, okay. Red and yellow are both warm colors. However, red relative to yellow is a cool color, if that makes sense. Generally. A more reddish orange is cooler than a yellower orange, so to speak.
Depends.
And the lighting is depends if we're talking about heat versus like how do I say cinematic warmth, emotional warmth. Emotionally the light is cooler upstairs. It's like a cool orange, which is strange to say because orange is the warmest color, but it's a cool orange. It does not feel friendly. The light does not feel friendly here. And again, I think that the interplay of the light, I think it was very intentional because the lighting in this dungeon is fucking gorgeous. And because they use the chess motif. And they do the light and dark. So I think the interplay of light and dark is important here. And I think it's also important because this is the expansion where Hydaelyn begins to be cast as kind of evil. And so them showing the light as being like bad, even in this like really minute capacity is, I think it was on purpose.
It's reminiscent of
because
Shadowbringers,
as you go,
where, the light is bad.
But here, like, of course, as you grapple towards heaven, you will see the light, and the light is really almost like blinding when you're like fighting. Like you run through shadow. Like you see the cast of the light, but you're running through shadow for most of the dungeon. But every fight is incredibly well lit. Where when you fight the second guy, there's like the light coming in from the windows. All throughout. You can see like the bars of the windows or the space of the wall between the windows like casting a shadow, but you're mostly in light for that portion. So again, it's like light. And then you go to the third portion, which is upstairs. And again, you're like running through shadowed areas. There's a lot of light, but a lot of the light is not on you when you're like making your way up. And then you fight Cherubert at the end. You fight Cherubert. And of course that's again very well lit. He fights you with fire. Of course, it's all very, very bright. Nothing of note of the actual dungeon, like mechanically. I don't think the dungeon was super impressive
except
mechanically.
for Cherubert's fight, which
it's just
for some reason sweeps house all the time. Oh god. Healing that fight is truly something.
Interesting. I've never had difficulties.
I think it was
with that
probably
fight.
harder back in the day too, because people were worse at the game. The healing it is a little bit like it can get hairy really fast.
Yeah. Interesting. And so you do that, and this is making me think quite a bit of Heavensward was actually quite good, because it's like outside of the rub-on thing, there's like no real major hiccup. Like the problem I have with Stinian is so like the cinematography problems are so small, and it's like that means they must have dropped the ball really fucking hard after the vault, and that makes me really sad. I'm like, wow, this has been like consistently a positive cast outside.
Yeah, we shut on Easters way more than we shut on Heavensward.
But so far. But we get up there, and now I understand why you say you like it so much. I understand why other people say they like it so much too. Like I completely understand that. Yeah. And so you fight him, and then he turns down to his small self. And in the post dungeon cutscene, of course, this is the big one.
This is the one where you watch all your sprouts scream. Every time I'm in dungeon and there's like a sprout there, I'm like, enjoy the cutscene, smiley face, and then I leave.
Yeah, literally me. I've heard like 4 sprouts at this point like get really upset on call over the vault, and it's great every time. Sadism. If you have a new friend who gets into it. Definitely, and it's
up to that point.
That's
like the most emotion your will ever show in a cutscene. When the moment when you lunge out and grasp Harshafon's hand as he dies is really like number one, like the most emotion ever.
Well let's go back a little bit, just a little bit. But you see Zephyrin, and he's like. He calls to Cherubert. Cherubert goes back with him. It's after the dungeon, because you can pose with like a haggard like Cherubert after the dungeon. So it's after you hit exit, and then you're on that like big bridge part, and you run out, and Americ's like all injured, and I was like, oh shit, like like I was still like, oh, I was like, oh. I still was kind of like grinds my teeth. But that was kind of where I realized, like, oh, he's okay. And he was like, Father. I only heard that cutscene in English, like, later on. So he sounds, like, really fucking cool in Japanese. Like, he's like, really, like, deep now. He's, Oto-san.
I think it's good.
He is so much
I played
worse in
Heavensward
English.
So.
I liked Harshafon's voice acting in that scene in English a lot, but I didn't like it in Japanese. Or I didn't like Americ's. So Lucia's there, and Estinian is there, and it makes sense that Izael's not there. Like, I think Izael should have been more of a presence, because she, like, after she, like, tells, like, her cultist to stop fucking with you, she's, like, a non-entity for a long time. Suicide. And I think I think her not being there for the vault was fine. I think it was good. Because, like, Estinian and Harshafon, like, or Estinian and Amaric, like, know Harshafon. Like, these guys all grew up in the same place, same culture, it's kind of private. Let's it be private, outside of you, obviously. Like, I like that Alphino and Tataru weren't there either. Like, I like that it was just, like, the people who know him, and then you, who, like, he does care about. At this point, cares enough to, like, protect you.
Whether or not he actually wears up to you.
It must be said, there is some optional dialogue. From Harshafon, where he states that his mother was sickly, and he's very scared of losing people because his mother was sickly and died because of her weakness.
Aww.
Yeah, if you, like, talk to him, like, between quests, he, like, says that. It makes me so sad. It makes me so fucking sad. So, like, it gives, like, an extra weight to the fact that he, like, ran out to protect you. Yeah,
something,
he doesn't want to, like, lose more people.
It's not really great, but something that I think about, because I do watch that cutscene a lot, because I liked it a lot. But it's like, did he have to? He could have just pushed you. Like, I'm just like, but whatever. Like, that's kind of like, that's, I think that's kind of like
I'll get to it in a second.
Because, like, this is, it's like a movie. Like, obviously, it's gonna have to.
I don't mind
right. Exactly.
something not being logical, because people don't act logically. If it was me and Lee, right, like, I think at that scene, I'm like, you can logically say, like, oh, like, why didn't you just push him out of the way? But, like, first of all, we're not CinemaSins. We understand why you did that. It's more logical for characters to act illogically, especially in emotional situations. If it was me and Lee, I don't know if I would push Lee out of the way. Like, when I was a kid, I watched, like, those animes and stuff, and, like, the guy would, like, not push the, like he would, like, replace himself with the girl and the get hit by the truck.
That is what Harsha-Font did. Like,
or, like, he would push. Yeah, and I was always be like, oh, it's so stupid. Why didn't you just, like, grab her and pull her away? It's
also,
like,
because
like, you don't think about
because
it
he had
like
to die
that.
for the story.
It's
like
split second.
I kind of think about things in more meta terms.
In meta terms,
I'm fine with
yes,
that. Like,
we'll get to the meta terms, because I have many things to say. Yes. But it's like, if it was me and any of my friends, like, just thinking about, like, the emotional logic of the scene, I don't know what I'd do. But there's other things too, but yeah, so, like, Imric calls out to Thornton, and this establishes him as a bona fide good boy and a bona fide boring boy, where he is like, oh, father, I'm like, Imric, wow, Imric did literally nothing in the story
not only
except
that,
need
like,
to
his
get
action,
saved
like,
for all
going
of
to speak
Heavensward.
With
Like,
Thornton, literally, it got Harsha-Font killed. Yeah,
it got
that needs to be like
killed.
lined up in, like, podcast, like, we need to say it at the same time. It got Harsha-Font killed, and, like, nobody really acknowledges that it was his, like, stupid action that did that.
Imric implicitly expresses guilt, but he doesn't, like, ever go, like, too hard on it. Whereas, like, I feel like the Wool expresses so much more guilt over it to Edmont than yeah. I guess. Well, no, because I don't know. Edmont's there when Imric gets stabbed.
Same.
If I was Edmont, I would have left him.
I'm not joking.
No, this is a joke.
I'm not joking.
That's a joke. That's a joke. Oh my god. Oh god. If I was Edmont, I know he's in my corner,
that's
so
fair.
I wouldn't want him dead. But anyways, no, jokes aside, like, you know, oh god, I had, like, a point to make. Like, people who are playing now, like, new sprouts who played after 5.3 wouldn't know this, but, like, you couldn't fly in ARR areas before, right? And when you unlock flying, you unlock it through a chocobo that Harsha-Font gives you, that, like, he raised from, like, its child, like, when you a black chocobo. He gives it to you, like, at the very beginning. And, like, flying is so fucking magnificent in this game. It's an amazing way to appreciate so many things in this game. It's like, there's so many beautiful, like, you don't experience that now. I do think it takes off some of the weight. Like, I'm glad to have flying in AR areas, don't get me wrong, but it does take away some of the weight that it's not Harsha-Font who introduces it to you. However, if we're talking about, like, the in-game text, we can assume this is the first time we're flying in the game, right? Because that's when we have to unlock aether currents and stuff. And if you're taking it that way, that Harsha-Font is literally the one who gives you access to this thing, it's like, he literally makes you see the world in a different way. Like, think about that. It is very romantic. And so what happens is, you know, he calls out to his father, and you and Harsha-Font look at each other, and you kind of have this warrior's understanding that he can't be reasoned with, which I think is really interesting, because Americ's a politician, and Estinian deals with dragons, and Lucia is a master of espionage. Like, she's a knight, sure, like, all three of them know combat, but you and Harsha-Font have fought people.
You've also
like,
fought
you
with
are
each
on
other
the
before,
ground soldiers, so you know what fight. Yes, these two things are so important. Like, you fought with Estinian too, but the thing with Estinian is, again, he fights dragons primarily. So you have this moment where you lock eyes with Harsha-Font. I really like the camera work here. The camera work in the scene is phenomenal. And then I have to see the you both run forward. Zephyr. Haha. Good thing. If Femmi could have really cute animations. Thank God. And so Zephyrin, like, fires up his laser. His, like, spear.
I'm on fire.
How did that meme ever get popular? Ugh, it was so bad. Yeah, it was not good. I stand by this. So it was he has this spear, and oh god, and the camera is on your wall because it's for his POV. And Harshavan calls to you, and he does the fucking paladin move with his shield.
Because that
except
move,
he doesn't have the fucking wings.
Because that move didn't
because
exist
he's
yet.
he's not a
that move was that move
yeah because that move didn't exist yet. Holy shit, you're right. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. You get him like Stormblood, right? Yeah. So my most memorable version of consuming the scene was not my first playthrough, not my second playthrough. It was watching my little brother play it, because he was like, "Oh God," right?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "Oh no, Harshavan," right? But then Harshavan puts up a shield, and you have that split second where you're like, "No, he's fine."
Like,
and
even
the
the wall like has like a split second where you look shocked before it actually goes through.
Yeah, and then he like spits up blood, and I don't take me for this like 100% because I think we see blood before this.
Probably one of the either most notable times or the first. But I don't remember.
It's either one of the most notable times or the first. The only other scene I can think about that has blood in it. There's only two other scenes I can think of, and it's the end of Shadowbringers with Graha when he's like bleeding from the mouth and he like gets up and he like fights Emmett with you. Or
no, there's Ilberd
when Xenos coughs up all that blood at the end of Stormblood.
Very bloody.
Like those
Ilberd after like right before
who?
This is also part of
Heavensward, yeah.
So yeah, when this is later, but
yeah. This is gonna be fucking 4 hours. That's okay. It's okay. I'll just start editing it earlier in the week. God.
Yeah.
Stormblood cast will have to be split up though. We are realizing. Sorry guys. Anyways, so that happens. And he coughs up all the blood, and
he's dead. He's dying.
He's dead. Well, no, he's not dead yet. He collapses to the ground, and everyone runs towards him, and that's when Thornton gets away. And this is where, like, I would say the banquet changes the scene. And at this point, you haven't like reunited with any of your allies. So Harshavan, Alphino, and Toucher are the only carryovers you have from ARR. Now, by now, you have new friends as well. But they're not going to kill the mascot. They're not going to kill the cutesy little Toucher. They're not going to kill a child character. So they killed your only remaining adult carryover from ARR. I guess you have Sid. You do have Sid.
Really in the story very
but
much,
like,
though.
Again.
He shows up now, but even then
he shows up now. Like, he's going to be here. I guess they might have like reintroduced him so strongly after this because you lost like your one adult connection. But it's like you're losing another piece of yourself.
There's a few
from
like
the old
themes
you
one of them is like
Heavensward.
One of them is definitely loss and being alone.
Yes, for sure. And I think that carries into Stormblood really well. We'll get into that. But a drinking game for you guys. I'm not counting, but anytime we say anyways, or we'll get into that in a later episode. Take a drink. Take a drink. Anyways, so they everyone gathers around him, and I really like that. I like that no matter what, they take your helmet off in this scene. If you're wearing a hat, they take it off. I know this because I played as Dragoon. I was leveled up to 60. I had my the Wyvern, I think it's called the Wyvern set. I had it on, and they made me take off my helmet. I think they make you take off anything they have on your head, so like accessories too. Yeah, so you can't fucking swine suit it.
And this is where what I said earlier comes in, because like when Harshavan reaches out to you, your wool lunges for him. The wool very rarely does things in cutscenes. This is something that I complained about last time, remember? And this is one of the few times when the wool does something, and it's to reach out and grab Harshavan's hand as he's dying. Not only do you grab it with like desperation. It's really good.
Yes. So yeah, I thought that was like really animated. Like, I was surprised, and then I want to say more than Harshavan, like for me, more than seeing Harshavan dying, seeing my wool in so much pain was like, it was good. But I was like, oh my god, Spain! And he says that like really iconic line. He's like, no, do not look at me so.
Quotable lines from Final Fantasy. We have a lot of quotable lines. The music, that's like one of the most quotable ones.
Yeah, the music swells. And significant here as well, Harshavan is your friend. Like, Moenbrita died too, and that was sad. And the Scions died too. And that was sad. I would say Minfilia's death was the saddest. Again, we're talking from player POV. You don't know anyone's going to come back at this point. But no one lingered with you as they died this way that you were so close to. Like, Minfilia didn't linger. You ran away. You did not see her die. You saw Monbrita die.
Yeah.
But Monbrita, you weren't close to her. You can headcanon your wolves being close to her. I said this last episode. But you weren't close to her. So, Haurchefant, he dies. And it's very cinematic. People don't die like that in real life, of course. And you smile for him. You smile very weakly. Your wolf. I don't know how your wolf looked.
Mine looked like he was doing his best.
Yeah, like it was a very good little animation. And then
he's fucking dead.
He closes his eyes, and yeah, he's fucking dead. It was such a like, I really felt something intense because like he seems almost like, because he sees you smile, he can die. He can let himself die. Like he's like holding on to a thread of himself to assure you that it's okay. Like I know it's making me sad. I always think I'm over Haurchefant's death. The thing is that, like, I wasn't realize another thing I talk about. I'm like, I'm not.
Yeah, he's okay. He's like a nice guy. You know what I mean? Like that's what I thought. And I was also spoiled for his death too. Like I was spoiled for it. Yeah, so it didn't hit as hard.
But we talked about this. Like we talked about this last cast, but like that's why Haurchefant's death hurts so much, because he's a knight, and knights know they're gonna die. But he wasn't going into it, no, like, even when things happen to Estinian, like, Estinian doesn't die, but, like, even when the things happen to Estinian, Izel, Monbrita, Papalymo, they all knew this was a suicide mission. Haurchefant, again, he didn't go into it prepared to die. And he still did, and he did it for you. And he spent his last moment, like, comforting the wolf. His last, like, breaths, and that is, and then, like, the wolves, like, lowers their head, and I love that we see that shot from 2 angles, and, like, my eyes are watering, and then, like, everyone lowers their head and, like, looks away, and it's this overhead shot. It's very, like, Renaissance painting.
We're, like,
with how Haurchefant's body is splayed, and you're all, like, over him.
Warn people that we wouldn't do that.
Yeah, well, it's about to get bad from here.
I think,
but
the way
the way the music's
the fact that it can elicit such emotion, despite whatever it would have done after this, is still proof that it if it touches someone, it's good.
Yeah, I think Haurchefant's death scene, like I think early Heavensward was very well directed, and it was very character driven, right? And the thing is like, they had to, like, put a bunch of lore in it. And I think if the Garleans didn't show up, I think if all the Matoya shit had been saved for later, and we're gonna get into this in a second here, and I think if all of the, if the Garlean shit didn't happen, and the Matoya shit didn't happen, then we could just, like, and Thornton had been, like, centered as a more interesting villain, it could have been good. If Thornton and Aymeric were better characters, I would praise this, like, story a lot more. But, like, this part's really emotional, and unfortunately, like this is where the tone shifts, right? Like, Stormblood could not be as dark as it was, and Shadowbringers could not be as dark as it was without this scene, because this scene shifts everything. Because even though the Bloody Banquet is dark, don't get me wrong, we're recentered later on. Second of all, it established a new status quo, and this establishes even another status quo. The status quo was that your allies who have sworn to fight for the good of the world can die. However, the status quo that is established now is good, innocent people who did not sign up for this can die. And that is so much more dire. Good, innocent people who and are like, close care to
about you
can die. And so even though Haurchefant was kind of a nothing character for Heavensward, even if he was important during ARR, he was kind of a nothing character for Heavensward, his death was incredibly important, and I don't wish he lived, because I think his death did so much for the story. It did so much so that the story could be good. I actually believe that if Fandaniel, like I know I've drawn this before, and some of you have seen it. I believe if Fandaniel possessed Harshavon, it would be super fucked up, especially because Harshavon's death is something that the wool still carries to today. Like he's referenced. I think there's a reason why they didn't do that.
Like Shadowbringers, because like the memory of Harshavon is like, you know, it's like nearly sacred. Yeah.
It's almost like sacred. However, I could see them doing that in Endwalker. The Harshavon story is over.
Though. We mentioned this last time too. He had this little cameo again after the actual end boss of Heavensward and Patches, and after that, it's like you don't see him again ever, and it's like because his story's over.
Well, yeah, well, it's a spirit, but
I agree.
It's less about Harshavon; it's more about tormenting the wool.
Hi, this is Noah in post, Noah from the future. I'm editing the podcast right now, and so our audio ended up going almost 5 hours between us getting up to take a break and beginning to record more, and we realized that our voices were basically at our limit. We could not continue talking. The conversation sort of went downhill. It wasn't interesting or good. So we're going to continue the rest of the Heavensward podcast next week. Next week for you guys, we're going to record the rest of it in a couple days from my perspective right now. So you guys can hear the rest of the Heavensward podcast from then. We'll be covering everything from the Vault to beginning of Stormblood, hopefully. We'll try to get into the raid content then. But in the meantime, thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. I'm sorry that we ended so abruptly. We didn't expect us to have to end abruptly. So thank you so much for listening. We've gotten really, really good audience feedback. I really appreciate all of you who make it to the end of the podcast, who take time out of your day to listen to this. If you have anything that you do, like any points you want us to bring up, anything you want us to discuss, anything you want us to cover, be it like minor characters or maybe a Brown quest or a plot point that we missed, feel free to just ask us about it. Again, for anything from beginning of Heavensward up until the Vault, for comments on this episode. I would really appreciate if you guys like and subscribed, because that does help us do better in the algorithm, and it's kind of nice to just see number go up. I won't lie. We're doing this for fun, but it's a little nice to see number go up. But yeah, thank you guys so much. Bye bye.